Always appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. Never take any of you for granted. Appreciate you always being here. Thank you so much. Love to talk college football. Would love to talk college football today, but we're going to set some time aside to do our best to update everyone. And you guys will probably do a better job of me of updating everyone on the latest from the NCAA. I saw a few things on Friday, and because it was late on Friday, and also because Saturday was a football day and I did not want to mar or infringe on football, because that's why we're here, is football on the field. Didn't want to infringe on the day in football with all of this nonsense. So I did see a few things. Again, I wanted to delve a little bit deeper because although I saw a few things, I also knew that there would be more to them than what I gathered at the time. I've looked around over the last couple hours, haven't really dug up anything too incredibly meaningful, but I did want to touch on some points here. So I wanted to go down these paths. And again, appreciate y'all being here at the Voice of College Football. Best discussion, debate, and analysis. Why? Because of you. All right. Ohio State and other teams reported to the NCAA. So I've seen this a few different places. Wanted to run down a few different sources. I go to all the main sources. I just Google, basically. I just start there. So I don't want to not credit the sources, but they're all typical: Yahoo Sports, ESPN, CBS Sports, The Athletic, etc., reporting that Ohio State and other teams. Now, I didn't see a list or naming of any other teams, any other schools that contacted the NCAA. There's an obvious reason why Ohio State would be listed, and why, if there were 10 schools that contacted the NCAA, that Ohio State would be the one. If they were only going to name one, that doesn't even need to be explained. I would just like to know what other schools contacted the NCAA. So please fill me in if you have come across information that exposes any other school approaching the NCAA. But I kept seeing the phrase Ohio State and other schools contacted the NCAA. Then there's this path concerning the TCU game, and the teams were contacting. And again, I saw Ohio State, and then I saw other teams, and I saw spokespeople for TCU representing TCU anonymously that said we were contacted by all sorts of teams. So throw a number out there, 10, let's say, letting us know what Michigan was up to. And then we were able to, and of course, a bit of a different situation, having almost a month to prepare from between the conference championship games and the playoff selection, knowing what matchups were in place, and then the actual kickoff of the game. So having almost 4 weeks to prepare. And so that being a different situation than at any other time during the season, not even the national championship game do you have that type of time to prepare. You've got like 9 or 10 days, but leading into that first playoff game, you've got almost a month. And so there were schools that contacted TCU to say this is going on. And so TCU was able to change all of its signals, I would think. There was a comment made by a number of, again, either anonymous coaches or sources, coaches that work for certain universities, not necessarily head coaches, that stated, hey, we had time to change some signals, but we couldn't completely revamp our signal structure. And that makes sense. Couldn't change all of our signs in 5 or 6 days. So again, the TCU aspect of it was kind of struck me in a different way, because obviously most of this is going on within the Big Ten. Most of the games attended and scouted and filmed. And if this all turns out to be true, which it at this point, we know some of it's true. There is a Connor Stallions. He does exist. There are tickets purchased. They do exist. There is surveillance film that shows us, yes, those people were occupying seats purchased by Michigan, or purchased by, let me correct that, purchased by Connor Stallions. We don't know if they were purchased by Michigan, purchased by Connor Stallions. And we know Jim Harbaugh has denied any connection, any knowledge of which is still going to point to lack of institutional control. But if they cannot connect Jim Harbaugh to these actions, then that's going to be a huge victory for Michigan. And then what the coaches had to say, and then what I wanted to run down more than anything were the possible conclusions to all this. And these were cited. And if you really think about it, I think any of us as college football fans that have been down this road a number of times with NCAA sanctions, and shoot, I'm not going to say I should be an expert because I'm no expert at this, but I did go down this path. Oh my goodness. I have forgotten more than I know. One of those deals. Went down this path with Ole Miss football. When I first got my job in Mississippi at WCBI, CBS station in Mississippi, as I was the weekday sports reporter, was the weekend sports reporter, or the weekend sports anchor. And then I took over the department about 6 months later. That Ole Miss almost got the death penalty. So when I got there, I was in the middle of all that, had no idea what was going on, was not following it when I was living in Ohio. So I get thrown right into death penalty possibilities for Ole Miss and all of that mess. And so that was a learning experience on the fly. There's no question about that. And then, shoot, Ole Miss football almost got the death penalty. Mississippi State was under probation and got NCAA. So I had to go through that whole investigation and all that business. And then the final conclusion by the NCAA taking away scholarships and scholarship trips and on campus visits and money and bowl appearances, etc. And then Alabama with Gene Stallings going into the Mike Dubose era. They got slapped with NCAA sanctions. And then all the basketball programs did when I was there, all three of them. So nothing got missed when it came to football and basketball for the 6 to 7 years that I was covering Alabama, Ole Miss, and Mississippi State. All their basketball programs were placed on probation, investigated by the NCAA, and then all the football programs as well. So I was immersed in this for about 7 years. That's maybe why I hate it so much. I would love to be able to snap our fingers and say, you know what? We know exactly what Michigan did. This is what they did. Boom, 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 boom. This should be the conclusion. Now, we can always argue over that because many of you would say, you know what? Slap on the wrist. Who cares? It doesn't matter. Everybody does it. Others would say, you know what? This is cheating. Cheating to win games. That's the only reason you cheat, is to change the outcome of the game. Therefore, you should have to forfeit a bunch of games. So, and then everything else in between concerning, penalties of money, fines, scholarship reductions, and the like. But I did want to hit on this that was posted by ESPN. And again, this has to do with, so they had a long article basically reviewing everything that's going on to date. And this was about 3 days ago. But the point that hit me, because it summarizes it rather well, is just what could be the conclusion to this. So it says, if further investigation is needed, the NCAA would issue a notice of inquiry to Michigan. So let's see, am I where I want to be? Yeah, where do things stand with the investigation? What is a realistic timeline in a case like this? Okay, so it appears as though further investigation is needed. Everyone who has said anything about this, who has knowledge of what's going on, says that we're not going to know anything until the off season. There are 4 potential resolution methods. Number 1 would be a negotiated resolution. So Michigan comes together with the NCAA, and they're able to come to some type of an agreement in which the enforcement staff and the school agree on the facts of the case. They say, okay, we agree. This is the conclusion you came to. We agree with that. We did all those things. We didn't do these. We both agree. We've got a classification of the violations, how severe they are, the appropriate penalties. According to the NCAA, this is the fastest track. It's also, I believe, the most unlikely, yet it still took an average of, especially the most unlikely, the more severe it becomes. So the less severe the infractions and the possible penalties, the more likely the two parties are going to agree on those two. But the more severe it becomes, the less likely that this is going to be the outcome. And so based on the NCAA's own tracking, this takes about a year, 368 days, almost exactly a year to complete on average, according to their annual report on infractions. Wouldn't that be great reading? Okay, the second possibility here is a summary disposition. So in this case, the NCAA and a school agree on the facts, but not on the level of violations and the punishment. Okay, this is much more likely. Okay, so the facts are the facts, and they can't disagree on the facts in this scenario. And that's likely that the facts are pretty cut and dry. But in terms of especially we're not talking about recruiting violations where there is a ton of precedents. There are tons of precedents regarding recruiting violations. So it's easy for the NCAA to say, we've done all these recruiting cases in the past, and this has been the outcome, and this has been the penalty, and it would need to be accepted. Here, there's really no precedence for this. The parties would submit a report to the Committee on Infractions, which could reach a decision and decide punishment. The parties can request an expedited hearing, and the school can appeal the COI's decision. Okay. Conclusion number 3, a written record hearing. So, which occurs when the parties have limited disputes about the facts or level of violations. A written report is submitted to a COI panel. The COI would focus on the disputed parts of the case and issue a ruling and penalties, kind of like an arbitrator. And then the last would be the messiest. A full hearing would occur in major cases, and the parties would provide the allegations and written responses to the COI. Michigan would receive a notice of allegations and have 90 days to respond. The parties would argue their sides during a full hearing, which would issue a ruling and penalties. Just found that interesting. 4 different conclusions, and they scale up as we go. All right, that's what I got. We will have more from you. We'll check out the comments and the questions, of course, in the live chat, and we'll go to our first call. I will get this line to call in back in the chat. We have left it in the chat, but I'm sure it's buried by about 1,000 comments at this point. So we will get the link back in there for you and also drop it in the description section of the video. We got Michigan Man giving
What's
us a
going
ring
on,
here.
man?
What is going on?
Man, just wild, man. Just a wild couple weeks we got going here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start with just the factual stuff, then move on to addressing like rumors and tinfoil hats situations.
Yeah.
So factual wise, this is what we know so far. Connor Stallions 100%. Well, I guess you can't say 100%, but it's pretty clear that he was doing something against in-person scouting rules.
Yep.
That's clear. In terms of this budget, let me go to the budget thing. So they said they found the budget sheet on a drive. $15,000 total was spent. That's not a lot.
Okay. There were like 30 games, right?
Yeah, but in the ESPN article, it said it totaled to $15,000.
Okay.
So, and in the ESPN article, I think a day or two ago, where they actually spoke to someone who, I don't know if did you see the article? They actually spoke to someone who Connor Stallions had do this.
Yes, I did.
So if you read that, he went to 3 games totaling $1,000. I think 3 or 4 games totaling $1,000, including the tickets and travel or whatever. Do you agree with me that sounds like someone that doesn't sound like an organized budget coming from an athletic department? Would you agree with that?
Yes. That doesn't mean
Second
it's not,
thing,
but I agree with I got your angle.
That's true.
Where you're coming from, it doesn't.
Yeah, the school still could have done it. I'm not saying that they didn't, but from just a logical, use your brain standpoint, I can't see a school, an athletic department worth millions and millions of dollars funding an operation of only $15,000 and doing it the way they did. That's one. That's a logical standpoint there. That's pretty much all we know so far. All we know is Connor Stallions bought the tickets in his own name, that he used Venmo, that that so far nothing has gone past Connor Stallings. Is that established?
Yes.
Okay. So now we get into rumor stuff because now it's getting crazy with the rumors, which I'm not big on rumors. I believe you should let the facts come out. There's rumors that on message boards that Michigan's got practice footage and all these things, that the FBI investigation with Matt Weiss is linked to it, even though police department has already stated that there's no relation to that situation whatsoever.
So let me stop right there real quick. So there is no relationship between the two. Yeah, we've talked about that before. But could the NCAA have gained some of its information from investigating the Matt Weiss situation?
Here's my problem with that train of thought. Why would the FBI? So we know the NCAA got it from a third-party PI firm. Why would the FBI give it to a PI firm, and then the PI firm give it to the NCAA? Does that make sense?
No, it doesn't necessarily make sense, but I'm not going to pretend to know what protocol is or something I might not be thinking about or missing.
No, it's true. Look, anything's possible. I'm not saying it's not, but I don't know why the FBI would give information to a PI firm, a third-party PI firm, not a governmental institution, not a police force. They would give it to a PI firm, who then would give it to the NCAA. I don't understand that train of thought personally. Now, could they have done that? I guess, but to me, it doesn't make much sense.
Well, first of all, it doesn't have to do with laws in this country. It's not a crime.
No, I just don't know why the FBI would do that. Well, I don't know why the FBI would be like, hey, or I don't know why the FBI would work with a PI firm to give over information to give over to the NCAA. I don't know about how the FBI works. I'm not an FBI agent.
Well, this is
I
my
just don't know.
And this may be completely off because I may be thinking about this completely different. I'm hoping that the FBI has better things to do with its time and research.
Yeah. To me, the FBI is focused on the cases at hand. I don't know why they would be. I don't know why they would be interested in giving information to a private investigative firm that's hired by the public. That just doesn't make sense to me. So that's clear. Don't get me wrong. Maybe that did happen. I don't know, but I'm trying to base my opinions in logic and not tinfoil hat things. So the latest tinfoil hat thing is from Michigan fans. I'm not sure if you saw this last night, but Michigan fans, they're saying that Ryan Day had his brother either who has a PI firm in New Hampshire called, I guess, 4th and 1 Investigations. Again, this is tinfoil hat things. His LinkedIn, he has a private investigation firm. Me personally, I don't think they would. I don't think they would. I don't think he would work with his brother directly. If that was a option, I think they would. I think they would go to another PI firm, not use his brother's. In that situation, there is some smoke there, in my opinion. But again, that's tinfoil hat. What do you think about that?
There's some smoke based on just people talking about it, or there's real smoke.
So smoke is in like pretty much anything I'm talking about right now. It's all smoke. So when I say smoke, when I'm talking about like the FBI stuff, any of this is smoke because we don't have any facts for it yet. So it's smoke in this.
Interesting that Ryan Day's brother does that for a living. So yeah, I can understand somebody speculating, and it's a large speculation, but at least the guy's not a garbage man. So there is a possibility that
yeah. And I heard people say maybe Michigan hired the PI firm. Well, my problem with the Michigan theory is if Michigan's the client, Michigan would have received that information before the NCAA did.
Yeah.
So to me, an outside party not related to Michigan would make the most sense in hiring a PI firm. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, depending on who's initiating the investigation. So we know that it was brought by schools to the NCAA's attention. then I would
Yes,
think,
yeah.
either these schools, I've heard it this way, these schools did, and we'll say Ohio State, but other schools possibly as well, did their own investigation, their own hiring, and then brought that to the NCAA rather than saying, hey, we're just hearing this. We know something's going on. Something's not right. Going to the NCAA and allowing the NCAA to then handle the entire investigation and then hire outside sources.
Which is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to let the NCAA handle investigations. Now, there was another tidbit, and I can't remember if it was the Athletic or the ESPN, that said that the NCAA wasn't going to do anything about this, and the only reason they jumped on it was because it was going to get leaked to the media. So this actually, from if I'm connecting my own dots here, every story, the only team that gets mentioned is Ohio State. Every single story.
Yes.
All the Ohio State message boards, which they're message boards, but in terms of insiders, in terms of 247 Bugnuts, all that, they had an inkling on this story before anybody, even before the national news outlets actually published the story. This is conspiratorial, obviously, but to me, I personally think that either Ohio State, Ryan Day, hired a PI firm to look into the sign stealing situation. Which let's just play with the idea. Let's say that's what happened. I think that now the information they gathered is still going to get used. Let me clarify that. The NCAA isn't going to care where it came from. They're not going to care. They're going to still be like, look, you got caught doing this. It is what it is. But there's an aspect of this that we got to get into talking about. One, was the information obtained, if this was the case? And two, this opens up a door into the NCAA is supposed to be the investigative body of college football. How are they going to feel that a institutional school hired a PI firm to look into another school? How are they going to feel, especially if this comes out like this? Are schools going to start?
That's what I'm saying in that I don't know what their protocol is, but if they're fine with being given research investigation from an outside firm and then working off of that, or whether it's against, I had always thought that these schools went directly to the NCAA. I don't know.
No school has ever done this, by the way. This is no school.
Most of me, I will say, until somebody can change my mind, I don't care how much it cost. If it cost 52 cents to cheat, it doesn't matter. Like that's inconsequential to me, how much it cost. Number two, it also is inconsequential to me how it was discovered.
Oh, I'm with you, except for in this sense. If the information was obtained illegally. Which we don't know.
Sure. Yeah.
Which we don't know. But in August of this year, now this could be unrelated. In August of this year, this was reported by Michigan themselves. Their whole athletic department computer systems were hacked by a third party. It could be unrelated. It could be unrelated. But it was reported. It's a factual thing that it was hacked by a third party. They had to shut down the entire server. Also, if they didn't use, if for example, Ohio State didn't use an investigative firm within Michigan and it was only within New Hampshire and they don't have a license in Michigan, that's also against the law. Secondly, again, the NCAA wasn't going to act on this. That's been reported. The only reason they did act on this and the only reason they opened the investigation was because it was going to get leaked to the media.
Well,
this has been reported.
If that's the case, then the final conclusion to this is that the NCAA is going to find no wrongdoing and everything's going to be fine. And it was just an opportunity for the media to gain a ton of clicks and a lot of attention.
Well, I disagree with that. I still think Michigan's going to get in trouble. I still think they're going to get in trouble. I mean, maybe I still think they're going to get in trouble. Because to me, even if they felt like they were skirting the rules, it's unethical. They still broke the rules to me. I mean, there's people talking
Exactly.
about.
Yeah. So
Yeah, go ahead.
well, there's still, when you state that this wasn't going to be handled by the NCAA, except for it was leaked to the media. But if there were rules broken, then it should be handled by the NCAA, and there should be some level of penalties. And I don't know what those are, and they might be minuscule, but based on just what we know right now, if there is no further violations or any more severity to them, it's just simply, let's say it's simply Connor Stalions acted on his own, and this is, a small time operation with him acting in a rogue fashion, then I think it's a slap on the wrist, but Michigan still has to pay penalties of lack of institutional control, not, they're still responsible for what their staff is doing.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, look, I'm not disagreeing on it. Like, I think they're going to get punishment. People got, like, the thing with the NCAA is they could do what they want. I mean, the rules could be, even if they didn't break them by, the letter of the law, which I personally think they did in a sense, but they could give whatever punishment they want. There's no precedent for this, so we don't even know what the punishment is going to be whatsoever. The only precedent with sign stealing is in other sports, and that's not the NCAA. In other sports, the two instances we know of are obviously the Astros and the Patriots. I can't remember what the exact punishments were, but it was nothing like, vacating wins or anything like that. It was just, I believe the Patriots, it was like
draft picks.
Yeah, draft picks. Things like that. The college equivalent would be fines and scholarships, things like that.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're gonna do any bowl bans or anything like that. Depending on, well, they would. I think they would in this if they found this, which so far, they haven't found any links to the staff. But I think if it did go up to like hardball, I think maybe you could do a bowl ban, maybe 1 year suspension. I don't know. That's very speculative. But right now, there's way more questions than answers. Would you agree?
Okay, this is the whole key. Is exactly what you just stated. Does Harbaugh know?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Or anybody else in the administration? Ward Manual, do they know? And then the next one would be, did they initiate it? Are they funding? But even if they are not funding it from the school, if they're knowing of it and didn't stop it, well, then they're culpable, and that's a much higher violation. Much higher.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that 100%. So I'm already convinced that, Connor Stalions did that. So to me, I'm not as interested in that, because the only thing I'd be interested in that is like how far up it went. But we already know that he was doing fishy things. In the ESPN article where they interviewed the guy that did the stuff for Stalions, they said that according to them, and I guess the guy was a D3 player, coach, something like that. He said that him and Connor Stalions both thought it was a gray area, which that's not going to matter. But that's as far as I think that. I don't know. That's that. I am very interested in this third party. That to me, the third party firm is the most interesting part so far for me, because everything else is known in terms of Connor Stalions.
Now, I would agree it's a bad look for Ohio State and whomever else would be involved if they pursued this, if they were the ones that initiated it and all that. But I don't care and don't believe that it should have a bearing on the facts of the case.
No, I don't think so either. But I think Ohio State they would be facing punishment as well in certain areas. First, for example, if Ryan Day, a head coach of a university, let's say he did hire a PI firm, and let's say that he got the information legally, is that not? Do you not think that there would be certain bylaws that would break?
I don't know. I have no idea.
I mean, if you're getting information on a football team Whether you, because if they got, it was a shared drive
I
they got,
would
correct?
think that Ryan Day or any other coach would read up on the bylaws before they would approach the NCAA if they've involved other people. That's what I would think, I would guess, but people do stupid things all the time.
Yeah, 100%. And if he got it, and if this is like kind of similar to Connor Stallings things people were saying, if Connor Stallings hired a third party to film a stance, right? Well, if Ryan Day hired a third party to get information on Michigan, and they got a shared drive with a bunch of information, including coach information, right? To
Yes.
me, that breaks a similar rule. Now this is tinfoil hat. Well, I'm gonna put it. It's
Exactly.
tinfoil
But
hat point.
we're gonna keep going here. Appreciate you calling, man. Got other calls to get to. All right. Yeah, let's get to some other calls just because we don't want to delve too deep in it. We want to go to the level of logical scenarios that we don't know about, but they are kind of the next step and not necessarily just, okay, we're going to, we had somebody on here a couple of times. They called me and they were, dreaming up scenarios in which Urban Meyer was, stealing signals and, at practice as a, Fox analyst and then going and talking to the Ohio State team. Absolutely, we can make up all that. Is that possible? Could it happen? Of course, it could happen, but we're not going to sit here and speculate about all sorts of nonsense. All right, let's keep it moving here at the Voice of College Football. We got Alex on the line. Alex, what's going on today?
Hey, Mark, I'm really looking forward to talking about this thing, but can I just say one thing first off?
Sure.
So this last guy, I was kind of confused for a while because I was like, is he trying to troll you? Do you like being trolled by somebody? Like, and then I realized, oh, you're just letting this guy just talk through and make himself look like a goof. Because
Well,
what does Ryan Day have anything to do with any of this? Nothing. Like, what the hell? Why are we talking about Ryan Day? It's silly. So there's that thing. But let's
well, there is an Ohio State mention in all these references to who talked to the NCAA.
Well, yeah, the NCAA is going to talk to anybody. They're going to talk to they're going to talk to anybody in the Big Ten.
Well, if
whoever.
they're initiating the conversations, but the reports make it sound like the initiation came from Ohio State or other schools, and then they also put other schools in the mix too.
Perhaps, but I suppose they just go to the top of the list because hey, it's Ohio State, and we're
they're going to put them
but
out there.
Yeah. So, the one thing that really got me going with this was when I first read the Washington Post stuff, and I was like, oh my god, this is like somebody else said, this is the perfect college football scandal. This is freaking Watergate. You have the Washington Post reported it, and apparently there was somebody who kicked this off, probably with it. Like supposedly it was maybe so within Michigan. So you have like you have your deep throat, right? Alerting whoever, getting the firm involved. And then they find Connor Stallion is running his little like group of interns. So you have your White House plumbers. And so they're doing this, like, then you find your paper trail, you have your 15 grand or whatever. And then you have, the guy at the top saying, oh, I see nothing. I know nothing. It's perfect. It's not even like you see other stuff that's happened before, like institutional failures, whatever. This is a freaking conspiracy in the Washington Post. Like they don't report for no reason. Like, I've never like, can we think of anything in the past where, I mean, you've had like Penn State and other things, but to this degree where they're the ones blowing this open, it's wild. It's amazing to me that, and just, I know, like, I mean, others, whoever, maybe not so much in Columbus or Ohio, but a lot of us love and respect what Michigan does and Michigan fans, but to really see the turnabout on this has been like the dissonance is ridiculous. Like it's pretty damn obvious when you have this staffer Connor Stallions and you see the way he's interacting with the staff in game right next to Harbaugh and his main guys. How, like, you don't have just some like $55,000 assistant just right on the sideline next to the head coach and all the other guys, and he's just hanging around doing nothing. And the head coach was like, hey, what's that guy doing? What's he? What is he talking to my defensive coordinator? My others like you don't have the to think that to try to disconnect him from anything's going on with and the whole rest of the team in the program. Like no way that he could have just run this thing on his own, and Harbaugh could just try to clean his hands of it. This is like, and I would like. I mean, well, Harbaugh will not be at Michigan next year. He's going to be gone.
Well, he could run it on his own. I just don't know what purpose there would be in that. What he would look to gain from doing that on his own, because you couldn't go out and brag about it or gain any kind of cred.
Right. There's some protection or some others involved that could back him up if this thing went to hell. Right. Or you would think that there would be because it's kind of like, well, if I'm falling down, then everybody else is falling down with me.
Now people there, especially when you've lived in the military and you've worked in the military, there is a aspect of the espionage and the thrill of it that some people can't let go of, and they just see that as another way to kind of exercise that demon of sorts. But when a TCU staffer can say that they were contacted before the playoff by all these different schools, there is no way that I can conceive that Jim Harbaugh would not know what's going on right under his nose, but other schools across the country know what's going on.
Yeah, and like I don't miss Dykes, but I love the guy. But the fact that they created their own sets of dummy signals to confuse the hell out of Michigan, which they did, I ripped them to shreds in the Fiesta Bowl. If that's out there, then how can you? Then if everybody in college, like if other teams around the country are aware of this, but then the guy in charge of Michigan isn't, how like who the hell thinks that? Like what was going on in Ann Arbor where they think that everybody outside of Ann Arbor knows what's going on, but then the guys running the athletic department like they're just like blinded by this.
So if Harbaugh does know what's going on, I don't know why in the world he would release a statement denying everything, unless he just knows, hey, I'm going to hope for the best and I'm out of here. Most likely I'm caught and I'm out of here. But
you could get a 10-year show clause. Yeah,
if some miracle I survive this and it doesn't, they don't, completely put all this together, which I don't know how they wouldn't.
I mean, they already have
I can stick around, because usually you'd get the standard, I can't say anything, just like he did with the other investigation. I went to Big Ten Media Days. That's all he said for a couple of days was, I can't say anything about this investigation. It's ongoing. I wish I could say something, but I can't say anything. Yeah, and that in comparison to this is minuscule.
Yeah, everybody wishes they could say something about something they want to deny, even though they already know about it. Like, come on. This is the goofiest, and just given when this is happening, yeah, it's going to be intense of, hey, does the college football playoff or the big or whoever really decide, hey, you can't have this team play in the semifinals? I mean, it's going to be really, like, this last month or so of the season is going to be really amazing to see how this gets not resolved, but how it plays out with where Michigan goes. But man, but to the folks in Ann Arbor who think that this like isn't a big deal, is going to go nowhere. I mean, Michigan's going to get slammed. They have to. How does every like the one thing I heard that I also found amazing was apparently Michigan was scouting Tennessee and Clemson because they could play them down the road, and some of that stuff got to South Carolina. How does South Carolina look like the Kansas City Chiefs last year against Tennessee? And then they beat Clemson. Yeah, and now South Carolina now looks just they look yeah. And Shane Beamer's been in trouble before for like trying to getting game plans, stealing game plans.
Somebody just made the comment in the chat here, and it seems like a rather obvious one, but I'm going to give it a lot of credit because I haven't gone there. But that if Jim Harbaugh is completely clueless about this going on, but he's in the middle of games, and in specific the Ohio State game, because we'll mention that because it's the biggest game and because that we've got the video and the pictures from that one. When it's known that, okay, we know there's signals and they're going to do X, Y, and Z, when it crosses mind, how did we become so smart? How did we get this?
Right as Connor Stallions joins the staff, Michigan is now back to being what we thought it would be under Jim Harbaugh originally. And the other thing is, like, because I'm out here like in San Francisco, right? What Jim Harbaugh did at Stanford, and then what he did at the Niners. For a while, I thought this guy's the greatest coach of all time. He's incredible. The way he turns around teams he goes to, and so for him, the like when Michigan was just like looking just terrible in 2020, I was sort of baffled. Like, is this guy just burned out? Is he just kind of like out of it? But then Stallions comes on staff, and then it flips around right away. Like right when Stallions comes in, that's when they surge. Like Pat McAfee said on his show, everything about this thing makes too much sense. It's like too perfect. It like how can it's when you just look at it from like some of these like how obvious it is and what happened when things started happening, it makes too much sense. So how could like how
Okay.
yeah.
Well, let's go along that path because I've hit this as well. So I'll kind of restate it to a certain extent. So what you're saying makes sense. However, I don't want to go there completely to say
Mhm.
just because you're typically a 9-3 team and nothing seems to have changed except this, that now you're able to elevate your game like that's never happened anywhere else before. But on the pro Michigan side, I'll make that statement. There are all sorts of examples of schools that are able to elevate their level of play without improving their recruiting, without a lot of other things, and just get better at what they do or just figure things out in a number of areas. But on uh, the criticism of Michigan on the negative side of the argument is, yeah, their recruiting is not improved. It's been the same. Their recruiting's been the same, although they have a large addition of transfer portal players that are pretty accomplished players to have supplemented what has been good recruiting, but not elite recruiting that should be producing these kind of teams.
Yeah.
So I can argue that on both
Mhm.
sides. So I don't want to say that that's to
Yeah, I
me
want to say it was
this
just him, right?
damning
Yeah.
obvious conclusion that Michigan's improved because of this, and there's just no other way they could have improved because that would be disingenuous of me. But there are signs and indicators to say, well, there you go.
Yeah, and especially against TCU. Like that performance blew away everybody, didn't it? Like no one was expecting that. But then TCU says, "Oh yeah, we fooled them because they were gonna try to sneak on us." Well,
Well,
yeah.
the thing in that, if you're stealing signs, I would think that you would have a run through, meaning if you thought you had stolen a sign and boom, you see the sign, that you would give it a look first, meaning you would not sell out on what you thought was going to happen because of what exactly did happen with TCU, that they figured out that you've got the signs, therefore they changed their signs. I wouldn't want to play into that trap. So I would want to see, okay, do we truly have their signs? Okay, do we have their current signs? Let's see this play or this formation or this scheme play out a couple times, and then we'll go all in on it.
Hmm.
That
Yeah.
would be my approach.
Yeah. But again, like everything just makes too much sense. So it's just I'm just curious of like Jim Harbaugh will be gone by next year. I don't know if he'll be gone by the end of this season. I don't know if Michigan just tries to like can this thing and just say we're going to suspend Harbaugh and then he's on his way out. But either way, like what, like do you think Michigan really gets to the playoff? Because I'm not sure. I think the playoff committee maybe like this situation is so bad. Like this situation is so bad. Like we can't have this team in there, can we?
The committee should, in my opinion, the committee should make absolutely no judgment about this.
Hmm.
It's not their role, it's not their place. If college football looks pathetic 3 months after the season's over because Michigan won a national championship and then this thing blows up into the worst possible scandal, it's not the college football playoff committee's responsibility. They can only deal with what teams are eligible currently.
Mm-hmm.
They'll talk about it. I guarantee they're talking about it, but they can't they can't say, well, Michigan's number 5 in the country. That's our final conclusion. Oh, they're the undefeated Big Ten champion. We put them at number 5 because of this uh, situation that's up in the air. They can't do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the NCAA, they're gonna they haven't even started the process to actually officially notify Michigan, so that's gonna run past the playoff. So the only entity now would be the Big Ten if they want
Yeah,
to
and
do anything.
that's an interesting portion in all this too, because before we get to the Big Ten uh, role in this, is I got to think that there is all sorts of infighting among the powers that be in terms of NCAA, get this done. We want to know what we're dealing with. We want this done now because we can lay down the hammer or we can slap them on the wrist or whatever. We don't want this season to be marred. Let's get this done in the next few weeks so we know what we're dealing with, so we can eliminate them, postseason ban immediately, or let them play and say, hey, everything's good to go. And it's not hanging over the college football playoff. And then there are probably some, depending on their vested interest, who say, no, this needs to drag on and get us to the off season because we cannot, it is way too late in the season to be making determinations that the probable number one team in the country is going to be banned from postseason
Mhm.
play.
Yeah, or will probably have, if they win anything, taken away within a year. Um, but man, who would have thought that we'd be at a point where we're now looking to Georgia or Alabama or somebody to save the sport if Michigan is going to be running
Exactly.
it through.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's the next point I was going to go to.
yeah,
Anybody who wants college football to come out clean and things to not be controversial and for us not to regret, okay, Michigan won, but did they really win and did they cheat? And well, we know that they did cheat and all that. And I'm not saying that to Michigan fans that they did. I'm saying what if it can all be saved by a loss to Ohio State, a loss in the play,
hmm,
whatever. Yes. We're
yeah,
looking at about 3 or 4 schools that can.
yeah. There's probably three or four coaches talking right now saying, they're probably game planning Michigan right now. We're like a month and a half out, and they're already doing it. So, yeah. All right. Well, I'm gonna bounce, Mark, but man, this is really just mind blowing to me. Not
Hmm.
just again like how it was operated, but then everybody in Ann Arbor is walking around thinking, "Oh, this won't impact us too much." Yeah,
It seems to
mm,
be serious, but it's
it is.
unprecedented. So
If
I
you're in the
can't make the
Washington
call on
Post,
that.
and if the FBI is on your campus for any reason, you have problems. And yeah, mention FBI in any circumstance on your campus, you have a problem. And whether this is involved or not, I don't know. But yeah, who knows where that goes to? I don't think this is we don't know if there's anything criminal per se. And well, there probably is if the FBI is involved in something. But is
Yeah,
it in
see that
regards to
that's what
this?
I was mentioning to the last caller. Why is the FBI
Yeah.
involved
Why does
if it's
FBI walk around Ann
simply
Arbor? Yeah.
NCAA violations being handed down?
Hmm.
Those are just rules. That's like one of us working for a company and uh, not adhering to company policy. The FBI and law enforcement doesn't get involved. It's the company. They got the jurisdiction within their company as long as they don't have illegal rules, and they hand down the penalties. And that's the way the NCAA and college athletics works, unless yes, there are criminal acts.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too is because there's always a money trail, right? So I would be very amused if this all started off in some way as a forensic accounting exercise. Hey, where's this money going? The Stallions guy's paying guys off Venmo for what? Shirts? He's not selling shirts. So, uh, yeah. So, yeah, bring in the IRS while you're at it, please. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're gonna be federal agents swarming all over Ann Arbor. Yeah, this is really fun to talk about, and there'll be more, Mark, and I'll catch you later, man.
Thanks, Alex. Appreciate it.
Mhm. Yep, later.
All right. Before we get to the next call, Mike, hang on. Super chats coming in. Thank you so much for those. Stephen Light, Michigan hired the PI firm after the FBI found this cheating. It's not complicated. Michigan hired the PI firm after I don't know what your sources are. Okay. Okay. All right. I can't substantiate that, but Jason says hiring a PI is in-person scouting, correct? Hiring a PI is in-person scouting. Okay. Jason also says if Stallions had a PI firm, still scouting. Okay. We've got Alan, food for thought. Stallions did it to look like he was better than he really was to move up at Michigan. It was a volunteer, and he was a volunteer in 21, hired in 22. Okay. So he's stolen the signals. He's done it so well, they believe that he's done it in game. Okay. That is the wow. That is, I got to think his peers on the coaching staff or what are his superiors on the coaching staff would be smarter than that to believe he's just that good. Brian says Michigan also changed the coaching staff, which they did. They hired geniuses like Josh Gaddis to run the offense, and that's why they did so much better. Again, we could play both sides of the why did Michigan improve game. Let's start with, for all the people that think Michigan was horrible, they were trash, they were garbage. They weren't. They were a top 15 team in the country pretty much at the beginning of Harbaugh's tenure all the way through before the last two seasons. They had a bad 2020. We know what happened in 2020 that questions how valid that season is, but they were a really good football team, but not in the same category as Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, etc., Clemson. And they elevated. Why did they elevate? Well, it wasn't due to their recruiting. Although recruiting rankings aren't perfect, you could have a better recruiting class, but it wasn't ranked to be better, but it turned out to be better. But they did change their coaching staff, and boom, that turned things around. And then, shoot, all you have to do is watch Michigan podcast during that time that I was coming on every week with Steve Days, and we were just marveling at this coaching staff and all the changes and all the enthusiasm and the burst of energy and ingenuity and creativity coming in from various locales and having coaches who had never coached at those positions. And this isn't completely a rarity or an oddity, but to this degree, it might be having coaches coach all these different positions that they had never coached again. And then this to come out this successfully. But it is a point to be noted. Different coaches. Steven comes back to say the real dilemma is the College Football Playoff Committee. They put them in and they go play and win. Then the whole thing blows up. It's not their responsibility. It's not their responsibility. They are to evaluate and judge the teams that are eligible. And as long as Michigan is eligible, I don't see where they have any issue in this. Will they think about it, talk about it, all that? Yes. But what are they supposed to do? There's an ongoing investigation and they pull a team out of the playoff that rightfully should be in the playoff. And it's obvious to everyone they're undefeated. They're the Big Ten champ. You know, they're an obvious top four team. And the committee's supposed to say, well, this just doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. We know where it's headed. So we're pulling them from competition in the playoff. No, I would be shocked if that happened because that's not their responsibility. Brian comes back to say they changed the defensive staff. Mark, I don't know who he's talking to. Mark, got another Mark on staff here. Mark with a C. Got you. Yes, I know this as well as you do, Brian. Yes. Shoot, I got a long list of videos and live streams talking about their new coaches. I know they're different coaches. And again, I just addressed my thoughts on the coaching. They had two different defensive coordinators. It wasn't like they hired a Brent Venables who masterminded something that, I'm not saying that they didn't hire a good staff. I'm just saying, did Josh Gaddis really turn out? And did they not have two different defensive coordinators for those two seasons in 21 and 22? And I'm not saying that he didn't do a good job. I'm just saying it wasn't like they hired an obvious guru to be the offensive or defensive coordinator, a guy that was proven to be one of the best in the sport. All right, let's keep it moving. We got Mike on the line. Mike, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good, Mark. How you doing?
I am doing just fine. You know what? You were on my mind when I sat down and started this stream because I thought I may open up with Mike's line that this is just exhausting. Let's just be done with this.
I wouldn't mind that, but it just seems like I wasn't going to call in because, like I said, this is just beating a dead horse. But I mean, some of these comments in here is like, you got to be kidding. I mean, first of all, I don't get the FBI thing. In case anybody's wondering, the FBI is a criminal investigative service.
Exactly.
The NCAA, this is civil infractions. The FBI is there about Matt Weiss for the people that don't know what's going on. What he did was actual crimes, not just what you think are crimes being a sports nut. So that needs to be addressed because it seems like
Yeah,
people
there are two different things. The FBI got involved in college athletics when it involved crimes, Jerry Sandusky, things like that.
Yeah,
but the reason I allowed that conversation to continue and also said, yeah, maybe they're involved because of not necessarily Michigan being the one who committed any kind of law breaking, but the acquisition of the information, whether that was done illegally, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there could be other facets of this that don't even point to Michigan's. Yeah, I can't see in any way that Michigan committed any crimes in this. No.
Yeah, it just seems like there's too many people thinking that this is some sort of like, actual, criminal activity. It's like, I mean, just because, they might have, been mean to your team, it doesn't mean it's a criminal nature. So that's why I kind of wanted to address, among other things. But I mean, I have a question. I mean, I saw on the local Columbus affiliate, I think it was the ABC one, but I saw coverage that they did about Stallions, pointing up to the sky and stuff like that. My question is, if all this information, if he would, if Stallions was just a foot soldier and this is, related to higher, why isn't Minter one doing all this? Why is it Stallions? Because you'd think, if they're trying to call in the defense that's known, that's Minter's job, not Stallions. Stallions is just some flunky.
Sure. But you're talking about why would they have Stallions go buy the tickets and contact these people and do all of that?
Well, that's the thing, though. I mean, if you know a little bit about Stallions, this guy, the more I read it, the more it seems like he's just kind of a rogue. He kind of reminds me of the Auburn tree poisoner. Was it Harvey Updike?
Yeah,
where he just has this just delusional super fan to him because
yes, I see the parallels there, Mike. At the same time, he was hired by Michigan. He was on the staff.
Yes,
and is on the staff. He's just suspended.
Yes, and and like I say, he's a retired Marine officer, and he's making $55,000 there. So it's not like he's without funds, and they're not spending millions of dollars.
Yes,
I mean, they're spending more than I would on tickets, that's for sure. But it's not like he's purchasing tickets enough to put him in the poorhouse.
True.
So this
absolutely,
this could just be at a level where he's like, when it comes to his loyalty to Michigan, he's the boxer that can't hear the bell.
Yeah, there are people out there, and they're commonly known. And anytime you watch any kind of a FBI or investigative kind of show, a Dateline or anything, you realize that most people that do things, and I'm not placing him in some kind of category as being some horrible person or whatever, but he's obviously got a few screws loose to some extent, and he's a obsessed person. He's got that type of mentality. You usually, in watching these stories, you determine that these people are half genius and they're half moron, delusional, and they do stupid things. They're also geniuses on some levels, and their criminal mind is split between genius and Neanderthal, to some degree, whether that's 50-50 or 90-10. But they usually slip up and do stupid things and don't see the obvious, but they're ingenious way beyond anything that I would dream up in other ways.
Yeah, I mean, just every fan base has that guy. I mean, some of them are a little bit more unhinged than others. Sometimes your fan base just has like a 350-pound bald dude, painting himself in silver paint and putting big nut on his chest. which is nothing compared to a guy that's committing potential NCAA violations. But every fan base has that nut. But it seems like that just Michigan just needs to get this guy, just basically just put a restraining order on the city of Ann Arbor. You just can't come here.
Yeah, it may be that Michigan is just unfortunate that their nut has this type of background to where it leads him to do these sorts of things, where other schools and teams' nuts are just going to act like nuts, but they don't have that type of wiring upstairs that is going to take them to that degree.
Yeah, I mean, just sometimes people forget that fan is short for fanatic.
Yes, it is. That's why we're all sitting here talking about other people and what they've got going or don't going and speculating all over the place.
And the one thing I will disagree with Go Blue on is that all I want is for the facts to come into play. I mean, whether talking about first of all, this whole Ryan Day's brother thing, you missed me with that. I ain't trying to hear that. That's just deflection. It's just trying to change the narrative. I ain't trying to hear that. But about all this, PI firm hacking stuff, all I want is the truth to come out. Now, if there's any type of illegal methods of getting this information, again, that's not an NCAA. That's just a criminal. If this is some kind of hacking,
yeah.
I mean, if they hacked to get all the information, fine,
sure.
Present it. And the NCAA can't. It's not like a court system. They can't say, "Well, you got this information obtained illegally. We can't use it." They can use it if they want to, and I encourage them to use it.
Yeah, I'm like you. I just want the truth to be known. And that's not just, okay, let's see everything that Michigan did wrong and nail them. If there are schools involved that did things that were not above board and against rules in acquiring the outside firm and acquiring the information, then I want them to be held accountable as well.
Yeah. And so, and if what they're doing is like an actual illegal activity that's, prosecutable, the NCAA can still use it, but that doesn't mean that, state police might not come knocking on the door, but so be it.
I hear you, Mike. I would love to know that there was a quick and swift timeline to this, but I doubt it.
Oh, we all know the NCAA moves at a snail's pace. So, I was originally thinking that they might, let us know in time for kickoff of the 2028 season. These guys are not moving fast. I heard, Michigan's going to be expediting it, but, expediting is a loose term.
I have to think that there's a lot of discussion going on, of course, at the Big Ten office as to, do we just let this play out, throw our hands up in the air and let it all play out and just be as informed as possible and in on the conversations? Or do we actually try to get ahead of the curve and determine how severe this is and take our own action?
I'm on the side of Benjamin Franklin, who said, it's better to let 100 guilty people escape than to let one innocent suffer. So
yes.
I just let it go right now. And if it's actually found out that it comes to a level where vacating is something on the table, then, you take, just like with the Fab Five, those banners don't hang in Chrysler because, what was found out, but they still let everybody play on. Well, of course, this was a little bit after the fact, but just let everything play out. And then if something comes, this is a pencil that has an eraser, but if it turns out that you ban Michigan from any type of postseason, and it turns out that a lot of this is massively overblown, you basically just screwed Michigan. And I know a lot of people, might like that, because they're just letting their, vile Michigan hatred, but that's not fair.
No, it's not fair, and it's never happened before, so I don't expect it to happen here. I don't expect anyone to be jumping to conclusions and banning any team before it's been determined exactly what happened and what the penalty should be.
Yeah. So I that's all I want. I just want everything to go business as usual while NCAA does their thing in the background. And then when they get the answers they want, then it just all comes to light and we find out the result.
I'm with you, Mike.
Okay, well, I'll let the next person in line. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Mike.
Have a
Appreciate
good
it.
one. Yep.
Mike Fort, great listener, viewer. Appreciate him. All right, let's catch these super chats. Where were we? After Brian, we had Andrew coming in with this. TCU was the only top 10 team. Michigan did not attend and had the extra time to prepare. And what happened? Seems strange to me. Did not attend and had the extra time to prepare and see what happened. Seems strange to me, meaning they lost the game and looked a bit confused and befuddled in that game. Well, if we can believe the TCU spokesperson on the coaching staff, who's anonymous, they received that information and that heads up from Ohio State and others, and they did something about it. Steven says the Washington Post reported that PI firm obtained computer drives maintained and accessed by multiple coaches. Therefore, Michigan hired the firm. So those are, if we are to, I read excerpts from the Washington Post in various other publications. I don't believe I read the Washington Post. Yes, I did not read that top to bottom. So they are saying they obtained the computer drives, so they had to be purchased by Michigan. Wait, reported the PI firm obtained computer drives maintained and accessed by multiple coaches. Hired the firm. Gotcha. Okay, then we've got Matt coming in with this. Matt Weiss was a grad assistant at Stanford with Jim. Okay. Let's keep it rolling here at the Voice of College Football. We got Dennis on the line.
Hey,
Dennis.
Mark, can you hear me?
I can hear you. What's going on?
Hey, so I just wanted to cover kind of a summation, right? There's a lot of information kind of coming out and questions are asked, but you know, the fan in me wants this to just go away, right? The reality is it's not going to go away, but I do see a scenario where, you know, Connor Stallions, you know, one, he was on the staff to steal signs during games, right? Like, and then maybe he wanted to be really good at his job because he loved Michigan and wanted to do well. And so he took it upon himself to go record sidelines, to get his buddies to do it for him or whatever, so that he was a value added and could do more for Michigan football. I think in order to kind of disprove that narrative, right, we got to follow the money or that other coaches knew. You asked earlier how like other coaches wouldn't, or how Jim Harbaugh wouldn't know and like other programs would. I mean, these programs don't talk. There's rumors flying all around all the time about, oh, this team's doing this and this team's doing that. I mean, when you worked at ESPN, you heard stuff that like, you know, Coach A said this, or this team's doing this and this team's doing that. But like, there's not a lot of crosstalk. It's not like PJ Fleck calling Jim Harbaugh, hey man, your guy's stealing my sign. PJ Fleck might think that, hey, Jim Harbaugh stealing my sign, but he's not going to address it directly. And the second thing is like, you know, as Jim Harbaugh, leader of an organization, if he did catch wind of that, right, he might have sat somebody down himself, like Connor, or he might have sat Connor Stallions down himself and had the conversation, or, you know, one of his, you know, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and said, hey, talk to this guy and found out what's going on. And then Connor could have lied and said, hey, I'm not doing this, or like, hey, I won't do this, or I'm not doing this. Right. And then it just never really got to that level because obviously Jim Harbaugh's got a lot of things going on. And, you know, with like 55 staffers or whatever it is, you know, 100 players, like he's not a family, right? Like he's not engaging on what these guys are doing day to day. So that's kind of my thoughts on this. You know, obviously more information's got to come out, but as I heard, you know, I think it was the second caller, you know, say, how does Jim Harbaugh not know? Well, he might have heard rumors of it and tried to squash it or try to address it. And then they just said, no, this isn't happening. We don't have anything to support that. And that's it, you know?
Okay, well, to address your first point, I get it, but if the opposing coaching staff can determine something's not right here, you would think that the head coach of the team that is doing the sign stealing and has acquired the signs would be able to determine, knowing football as well as Jim Harbaugh does, this is too easy, or we know this, or we know that.
But the guy was hired to steal signs, and maybe he found a savant, right? Maybe Jim Harbaugh, in Jim Harbaugh's mind, right, he found a savant. And I don't know Connor Stallion's social skills, right? I can only assume what I know signalers, signal people in the intelligence community and how they are. And sometimes those guys can be socially awkward and like beyond measure. So I don't know personally like if he is or he isn't. And so that can make some kind of hard communication. But there are some really brilliant people out there, and maybe he thought truly, right, he had a savant that was really figuring this
Okay,
stuff
you
out.
sold me on that one. I got you. The next shoot, now I forget what my next follow-up to your next point was going to be. Yeah, so anyway, that was one point that I was going to make, and yeah, just keep going because I've completely lost.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to sit here all day. I mean, I just think that, I mean, I hope, right? And again, it's a bit of a fan's hope, right? That this really was just somebody trying to get better at their job, right? And essentially, that's kind of what he did. Now, look, at the end of the day, he still violated the rules. Michigan should still be punished, right? And if it comes out of vacating wins, it is what it is. And I agree too. Like if Hardball or really anybody else on the staff actually knew about this, and like Connor was talking to them about it or showing them how he's doing it or whatever the case might be, right? Like absolutely take it to the house. Except don't vacate the Ohio State wins, because Ryan Day said that they changed the sign, so it had no impact on that game anyways. That's kind of my final thought.
So it just came to mind where I was going to go next was the point that you made about the NCAA, and if there were conversations that Jim Harbaugh had, if he found out that there could possibly be something going on that Connor Stalions was involved in. Anytime the NCAA is brought up to a head football coach, it should be like ding, 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 ding. Like, I'm not letting go of this until we know exactly what happened, what he did, what he was involved with. Like, not just kind of like, go have a conversation, ask him, did you do X, Y, and Z? Oh, he said no. Okay, we're good. Like, there would be, I would think, better follow-up than that to determine, okay, if this is coming at me from various directions, then I need to close the book on this and airtight to know if or not this is occurring.
And I agree, but again, to what level, right? He has no investigative powers himself. I mean, he can investigate, he can ask questions, but he can't say, okay, well, give me your cell phone, right? Or you're fired. I mean, I guess that would be ultimatum, right? And then the other thing of that, right, is Jim Harbaugh is a leader, right? Like a lot of these coaches are leaders, right? And you typically back your guy to some extent, right? And I don't mean that like even when they do the wrong thing, but if you've ever been a leader in an organization, right, a lot of times you'll recognize that like it's kind of hard to describe, but like you have your person's back to the outside world, and then inside you kind of, chew them out and kind of deal with it, right? And so you're right. Like I'm hoping for the best here, right? And like Mike says, like it's exhausting because it really takes away the joy that this season is. Like I don't think Michigan is winning games right now because they're stealing signs, right? I think Michigan's winning games because they have a lot of depth, right? They have a lot of talent, right? And it may not be a top 5 talent profile, but they have it. It's very deep, right? Their offensive line and defensive lines, very deep, very dominating. Now, could they have got that jump start wins for cheating? But it's just exhausting as a fan. I just wanted to kind of share those thoughts because we're kind of jumping to conclusions of like this and that without really thinking through that. Like there are instances where Jim Harbaugh may have had his suspicions, but maybe he couldn't prove it, right? Or maybe he didn't know for sure. Or maybe this guy told him, hey, I'm not doing this stuff. Like I'm just really good. Here's how I'm figuring this out on the sideline. And maybe he showed him that way, right? Because there are we do deception, right? There's that sort of thing going on. And I truly think like, I don't think Connor Stalions is a super villain, right? I think he's a guy who loves Michigan football, had an opportunity to volunteer for the staff and earn a job and wanted to be really good at it. And in order to do that, He was ultimately cheating. And again, they were cheating if all of this is true. Now, we might find out that Connor Stalions had a crush on some girl on the sideline, and he was just, videoing Jenny Taft the entire game. We don't know because we haven't seen, the video evidence of this. So,
yes, I think this will all wash away when Jenny Taft is all over that video evidence that's being obtained.
obviously, I'm joking a little bit. I'm joking a little bit, Mark. I'm just trying to make it a little light, but
yes, we need a little levity.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I just hope that they do this and they do expedite this and we really get the truth. The last thing I'll say, and this will be my last point, I am really disappointed on how all this is handled though by the NCAA. I mean, the NCAA can sit here and leak and leak and leak all this terrible narrative right into the media, and the media can just run with it however they want, right? We can have people call in and say, Ryan Day is hiring his brother's PR firm to like get this information and all this crazy stuff, right? But Michigan cannot defend itself in the public perception and say, okay, look, this is where we're at. This is what we see because of the ongoing investigation. I find that really distasteful as well, right? Because there does seem to be some malice in the media trying to make Michigan look bad.
Is there malice in the media, or is there just an opportunity to blow up a story
There you
and
go.
make
Yeah.
money,
Yeah,
regardless of who it is?
Clicks. You're right, 100%. There definitely is. Make this sound as bad as possible because it gets clicks, right? That's a better way to put it. I think that's malicious in its own way, but
Yeah, if we knew today that Michigan was going to lose 10 scholarships and get fined $50,000 and lose some recruiting trips, none of us would be here talking about this right now.
that's true. That's true.
All right, Dennis, thanks for the call. Appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks, Mark. Later.
We got Jeff's super chat here. Jeff has this to say: how do you ensure they do not use the information going forward, meaning the staff? This staff cannot be allowed to face any of the teams they have scouted. Well, said teams now know and have been warned basically about the sign stealing. We know that they are not scouting. Well, we can assume based on the Ohio State Penn State tickets not being used that it's been shut off from here on out. But obviously that doesn't take care of the first 6 or 7 weeks of the season. But until the investigation's over, you can't control what's going on within that coaching staff. All right, we got Rob on the line. Rob, what's going on tonight?
Hey, what's up, Mark? How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So I do want to I do want to say that the notion that Stallions was doing all this while being on the sidelines, talking to both coordinators in games with the sign stealing, and that Harbaugh knows nothing about it is one of the most unbelievable stories that I've ever heard. It's great fiction. Like if you wanted to make like a sports movie about it, and this is not based on a true story, as the precursor, when the credits are coming up or the opening credits, that's the most unbelievable thing I've ever heard. I mean, Harbaugh knows about this, like he has to. And if he doesn't, so I'd say there's like a 95 to 5% chance that he, in favor that he does know. But if he doesn't, as you and other people have said, that is major operational, like a lack of operational insight, and he would have to be. I mean, there would have to be some
How are teams across the country aware of this, and Jim Harbaugh is not aware of it?
Yeah, it makes absolutely no sense. Like in a reality world that we live in, that doesn't make any sense at all.
How TCU plays in a completely different conference, and there was really no thought of them playing in a playoff until the last few weeks of the season and possibly playing Michigan, and they get calls from coaches and they're like, yeah, we know.
Right. Yeah, it's just so if Harbaugh doesn't know, which again, maybe a 5% tops chance that that's the case, probably less. But anyways, if he doesn't, that's a major like indictment on him as a coach. Like, and it's like how do you get to that position and not have operational insight on your team where you know what your assistants, what your paid employees on your team are doing,
And the previous caller hit on this, but I can't wrap my mind around these conversations where Harbaugh's like, wow, we have really uncovered these signals and these signs. I wouldn't, as a head coach, just kind of let that go and say, well, I got a great coaching staff. Oh man, this analyst we hired last year, he's amazing. Great. Awesome. No, I'd have like a heart to heart, sit down with him. Like, okay, where did this come from? How did you get this? Why do we know these signs this well? And whether that outcome was you're just really that good, or wow, okay, you're screwing around with my job and our program, and we're going to get to the bottom of this, and you're probably not going to have a job tomorrow. I'd have to have those kind of conversations, because Jim Harbaugh just can't be thinking, oh, our offense and defense are just working this well.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So again, I find that narrative or that notion preposterous. And as far as one of the callers, I forget which one it was. There was a few callers back. He said that all the people in Ann Arbor think that this is just going to blow over. I don't think that's the case. I think there's some really nervous Michigan fans out there. I know if it was my team going through this right now, I'd be pretty nervous because I mean, with Notre Dame, we already had to vacate our 12-win season, which is fine. We didn't end up winning the championship that year anyway, but it hurts to lose games. I think that was I think that was a self-imposed, penalty for Notre Dame to avoid further. I think that I'd have to look that up again. But yeah, we lost all of our 2012 season. Base. So I mean, I would want, if I was a Michigan fan, I would want, like, if it was the case that Michigan is, found evidence that they are cheating, I would want to be punished. But I also, like, I don't find the narrative that, like, there's nobody in Michigan is like worried about this. I think there's a lot of people worried about it, and they should be, really.
Well, I would like, Rob, for one person to reference an NCAA investigation that was gaining this much attention and seemed this serious, where nothing came of it. And it turned out to be, okay, slap on the wrist, not a big deal. I don't know of that. Now, I know that where there have been much publicized investigations, and the whole Jeremy Pruitt Tennessee one comes to mind, that was nationally known, a big deal, and all of that. And it didn't crash and burn the program, but it was somewhat severe in regards to what they had to. I don't know if they vacated. No, I don't think they vacated wins. And if they did, they didn't have many to vacate under Jeremy Pruitt, but they certainly got hit with scholarship reductions, at least, and fines.
Right. There's a comment here saying sign stealing is nothing in football. Are you serious? So common.
Yeah.
Well, that might be the case. Maybe. Like, we don't know, but what's not common is how this has blown up. This is unprecedented, as you've said and other people have said. There's never been a situation like this before.
So that's the reason I posted this.
Yeah.
Is that this is the common rebuttal is sign stealing's common. It's not a big deal. Everybody does it. Okay. It's not the sign stealing. It's the approach that was taken to steal the signs. It was, and if everyone's doing it, then I just find it hard to believe that since 1994, 29 years, there has been no other case of any investigation or any talk anywhere of, oh, so-and-so school is purchasing tickets to have friends of the staff or acquaintances of the staff go advance scout teams on their schedule. Like, I've never heard of any of this happening with anyone else. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm just saying I've not heard of this. So it's not the sign stealing. It is the method to which the signs were stolen.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, this is definitely not common. Not this, but are you familiar with SEC shorts?
Oh yeah.
Like, it's like a comment. Did you see the one on this Michigan scandal?
Yes, that was sent to me with the Ohio State guy and the Penn State guy.
That was pretty funny.
Or a young lady. Yes, that was a good one. Yeah, they do a great job at SEC shorts. Absolutely.
So what I find interesting about this is now you have Lincoln Riley. I don't know if you probably heard about this. He is now accused Utah of stealing their signals. Were you aware of that?
I was not.
Yeah. So it was a story on Sports Illustrated a couple days ago where Lincoln Riley has accused Utah of stealing their signals, which I wonder, like, now that this Pandora's box is, because I think what's been going on is you have coaches that just didn't want to come out against other coaches on sign stealing. It's just been, and again, I'm not saying that it's super common, but I think it might be common enough to where, yeah, you have people that don't want to like break the coach code and call other people out. Now that Michigan's whole thing is out there, I wonder if you're going to see more coaches like what Lincoln Riley did, or if this is just Lincoln Riley being goofy and like trying to take just trying to have some more arrows flung his way for what's going. His season hasn't been exactly great, so I'm not sure why he would come out with that accusation at this time. You'd think he'd want less smoke, not more. But
I'm guessing that the truth is somewhere in the middle, meaning that this is going to give some coaches thought to and have them not be hesitant in pursuing something if they think it's there. But I don't expect to see some avalanche of every other day a coach saying, "Oh, our rival stealing signs and paying tickets." And yeah,
yeah, I thought that was kind of a bad look for Lincoln because it's like, dude, you've got enough problems. Like, why would you call Utah out? It's just not the right time. I almost wonder, do you think he's going to last? Like, do you think Lincoln's going to stay in USC? Because I've heard a lot of rumors that he's thinking about going to the NFL, like already.
well, I know he was a hot commodity for the NFL a few years ago. I don't know, not that he's done an awful job, because of course he did a great job last year and they've only lost 2 games. It's not the end of the world, but I guess he's still a hot commodity in the NFL. I don't know, but he's got to have that opportunity. But yeah, I really can't speculate. He's not got any other ties to USC that would keep him there, that would prove him, to be loyal to some degree. And he appears to be a guy that would probably just go where the money is and the more attention. So maybe he does go to the NFL.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see what happens there. So I watched that segment that you and Steve had on Michigan, like when a couple days ago, when he was on your show, and
Yes.
I like Steve a lot, and I don't want to I'm not trying to attack him or anything, but like, man, I think that was a hard take to watch. Like his reaction to that was like, "This is the dumbest thing ever." It's like, well, I mean, is it though? Like, I mean, see, as me again, as a Notre Dame fan, if this happened to my school, and I would think a lot of fans, like, you wouldn't want it to happen, obviously, especially when you're having such an amazing year from a statistical and dominant standpoint. Again, Michigan hasn't played great competition, but they have been dominant. So this is Michigan's best season in a long time, at least until we see what happens with Penn State and Ohio State. So yeah, it does take the luster off that season a little bit, but if this happened legit to Notre Dame, I would want them to be punished. Like this comment right here is this Michigan fan, he's pissed off at his coaching staff. Yeah, I'd feel the same way. So I was kind of surprised that Steve was kind of so, like, you know what I mean, like defensive and just brushing it off like it's not something that matters.
Yeah. So I'll be a bit measured with my comments because Steve's a friend and
Right.
I want him to be able to speak for himself, of course. So I don't want to read too much into it, but there's not much to read into. He was pretty uh, bombastic about his opinion. I expected him to be a little bit more measured and certainly speak as a fan, but also speak as one who truly represents in every other way, wanting liberty, justice, the truth to be known and prevail and all those things. I think he is frustrated, irritated, and otherwise about all the other things that go on in college athletics that are, in his eyes, much more severe and radical and violating, disgusting, all those things, underhanded. And then this gets piled on while other things are allowed to go. And so, and I feel bad for Mr. Michigan fan in general, and Miss Michigan fan, of course, in general, because of this. You're enjoying this great season, and it almost like becomes, because of social media and because of the way people treat each other on social media, you become like this target of, okay, you almost have to take the cheating personally, like you did something about it, you were involved, like this reflects upon your character and your integrity. Of course, that's completely asinine and ridiculous, but that's how closely people are attached to their teams and how emotional they are and how much we are invested in our teams. And then when it goes bad, that's how much ridicule you're going to take. You know, we see it every day on here, just in terms of wins and losses on the field. But when it becomes, you know, in the realm of rule breaking, and especially when you're on top, if Michigan was, you know, 5-3 right now, then people would just be kind of laughing, saying they couldn't cheat better than that. They're 5-3. They're really not that good. They're okay. And just kind of be laughing, and we wouldn't have this many people talking about it right now. But they're vying for a national championship, we think. So, but yeah, I feel bad for Michigan fans. I hope. Well, I think we've found out way too much to know it's not nothing. At the very least, it's a rogue staff member and a lack of institutional control at the very least. So Michigan fan needs to hope that that's the extent of it.
Right. I agree. I do feel bad for Michigan fans because it does, like I said, it does detract a little bit from this. You know, so far in, you know, right now at this point in the season, it's been a great season. But I do think that the idea that this guy's a rogue agent operating completely on his own, it's so unbelievable. It's actually comical. You know, it's funny to think that. But I
You
would
know,
also,
I'll liken it, Rob, to when Urban Meyer does something stupid. You know, he just did about a year ago. Has nothing to do with his coaching ability or any kind of on-field conduct. It's all about just him, you know, misconduct in his own personal life. But, you know, people throw comments at me, whether that's on social media or on here, and throw comments like I'm responsible for Urban Meyer's behavior. It's like, I don't know what to tell you. You know, it's just, okay. Yes, I see exactly what he did as well.
yeah,
I'm not responsible for his behavior. He was employed by Ohio State University to be the head football coach. He's a great coach. I can defend that to the hilt. But as an individual, as a man, as a husband, as a person, okay. I don't know what to tell you. Yes, I'm not going to defend him. He's
right.
not mine. He's not my brother. I don't know the man. So yes.
Yeah, that's kind of like when Lou Holtz made the disparaging comments about Ohio State, you know, saying they're soft and all this. I'm just like, well, that's Lou Holtz. That's not Notre Dame fan. Now, granted, I'm sure there was a lot of Notre Dame fans that probably agreed with him, but not all of us did. And it's like, you know, I'd have people saying, "Oh yeah, Notre Dame, you guys are all, you so look how wrong you were." I'm like, I didn't say that. That wasn't me that said that. But yeah, no, I get it. And then my last question is, before I go, do you think, 'cause another caller was on here earlier saying that he knows for a fact that Jim Harbaugh is gone after this season, and I don't think I agree with that at all. I mean, what are your thoughts? Like, do you think Harbaugh would actually get kicked out by the NCAA, or do you think he would just like leave in disgrace if it was found out that he was, you know, involved with this?
I don't think that he's going to be fired. I think he may look for this as an opportunity to leave for one of two reasons. Either, yes, leaving in disgrace, he's been caught, he cheated, and him just not wanting to be in this world anymore, where I can't imagine myself, let's say, going on probation, being a coach who finally reached the mountaintop, at least within the conference, and accomplished all these great things. And then they're kind of stripped away. They're clearly tainted. And then still coaching the football team, going to the news conferences, and having everything you say after that taken with a grain of salt and taken as not necessarily true, and how legitimate are you? Like, I could understand just saying, you know what, I'm leaving this, either because I cheated and I was caught, or I think I was railroaded and mistreated and made a example of, as opposed to other stuff going on. Like, let's take the Steve Dace position, that I'm being singled out, and all this other crap is going on everywhere else, and I'm sick of the NCAA. I'm sick of this hypocrisy, and I'm gone.
Right. Yeah, well, I guess time will tell, right? I personally don't see him leaving myself, but I hadn't really thought about the outcome, like the what's capable or what's possible as far as how negative it can go for Michigan. I guess I didn't really put a lot of thought into that yet. But yeah, obviously Jim Harbaugh leaving the institution would be a massive blow to Michigan. I mean,
Let's go to history once again. How many coaches have gone through massive NCAA violations and stayed at the school?
I don't honestly, off the top of my head, I can't think of all that many massive violations to begin with. But the answer
Les
is
Miles, Pete
yeah,
Carroll.
right. Pete Carroll ditched on his own though, right? He was just
Yes,
he kind of got out ahead of it
sure.
and just took off.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I could see Harbaugh doing that, I guess. But he would have to. Well, yeah, it's gonna be interesting. We'll have to watch and see what happens. But I know you got a lot of probably other callers on, so
Well, thanks for calling, Rob. I
yeah,
appreciate it.
thanks for having me.
Have a good night.
You too.
Shadyville03, look at this, has become a YouTube member. So what Shadyville gets with this is my predictions every week. Not guaranteed to be amazing, incredible, anything like that. I'm not an odds maker or handicapper, and truth be known, I make these picks in about 45 seconds. However, that said, I am pretty consistent, hitting 60% against the spread and about 80% straight up. And actually, I could increase those percentages easily, doing one of two things: either limiting the number of games that I predict, because, like, if you sign up for some kind of betting service, they're not predicting 50 college football games every week. They give you, like, here's our 6-pack or whatever. They're honing in on the ones that they're sure of. I just pick all the top 25 games, plus add on a couple more typically. So that doesn't serve my percentage well, because I used to signal out confidence picks, and I was much better at that, saying, okay, well, I'm confident in these three. These are my 3 confidence picks. I should start doing that, I guess, going forward, saying these are my 3 confidence picks, because when I did that, it's more like 70% against the spread. And then again, and I also have noticed that in the past, I've done much better, or decidedly better, when I put more time into it. And I actually spent a couple hours. Now I just check, and it's out. But you get those predictions. You get Steve Merrill's under the radar selection of the week, which he is 17-5 against the spread since week 1 of 2022. You get the Discord link with all the college football talk, the conversation on the Discord link. It's basically a chat room that you see right here all the time. So Shadyville03, thank you so much for that. And if you're curious, anyone, about where you can find the link and get all of that, the Discord link, my predictions, and everything else, we've got Steve Merrill's under the radar selection each week. That's either as a YouTube member right here, as Shadyville is done, or on patreon.com/MarkRogersTV. All right, Buckeye Mike's here. Buckeye Mike, what's going on?
Oh, not much. How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing just fine.
So before I ask any questions, I wanted to make some obvious statements. I agree a lot with, so for example, I know Mike Fort's been saying people need to stop talking about the death penalty. I agree with him. I don't think this is death penalty worthy. I don't even think it comes close to touching the death penalty, if you ask me.
No.
And then with what Rob touched on, I personally want to say, because I have been rudely approached by some of our Michigan fans, I understand that you're going down a rabbit hole and you're looking for explanations and any kind of explanation that you can, but those of us that are Ohio State fans, such as you and I, we at least try to be non-biased, reasonable. And so for our Michigan fans that we are in this family with, I would really appreciate it if you stop blowing up my personal Twitter with accusations directed directly at me to represent the fan base.
Can
So
I
I
follow up that
understand-
statement, Buckeye Mike, by saying anyone who sends a tweet or whatever we call it now, a post to Mike, to Buckeye Mike here, and attack him, you know what you need to do? Send it to me, because I just learned the other day that on X, and I'm correcting myself because I still call it Twitter, X, on X, that if you get a certain number of impressions, so I didn't know anything about making money on X before, but I was talking to somebody the other day and they were recommending various ways in which I could eventually make some income, because we need to expand the business and we need to find out other ways to make money and increase revenue streams. And X is one of them. So you need, so I hit 2 of the 3 qualifications for monetizing on X. The one that I don't is I don't get enough impressions. So this time last year, I was getting like 60,000 impressions a month, and now I'm getting like 600,000. So that's a nice increase. But you need like 1.5, you need like 2 million impressions per month. So out of simply selfish reasons, if you want to send me nasty posts, folks, you can send them to me. If you're going to send them to Buckeye Mike, just send them to me instead, and we can argue and we can go back and forth and we can make it go viral, because that's going to help me. So send them to me.
I'm more than happy to have them shipped it over to you, because it's just too, I can't stand it, because it's like I don't represent all of us.
And I say that I'm actually not wanting that either, because I get annoyed by people that are irrational and act insane on Twitter as well. But I was basically joking, but I'll take them on as well. It doesn't matter. I'll either ignore them or I'll fight back for a little while, and then it gets to be ridiculous after a few back and forths, and then I say, you know what, the comment that I have learned to make that shuts everyone up, it has never failed, is call my next call-in show. And they never do. So that's that.
Keyboard warriors, I swear, Mark, they're so bad. And the other thing that Rob touched on, I would almost say it's not 95% guarantee that he knows. I would almost say it's closer to 99% chance that Jim Harbaugh knows. Because, I mean, like you guys were saying, and I don't want to rehash your conversation. You got some food in the office? I'm not sure whose it is. It's on McDonald's, though. Sorry, I'm at work. But yeah, I don't want to rehash that whole thing, but that's kind of where I was thinking. And then the other thing too, everybody wants to point to the FBI part of the investigation. It isn't involved in the way I think people think it is. I just think that people are referencing it because there's just overall, there's so much that Michigan is dealing with at this time. I mean, you have the FBI investigation, you have the current one with this that's going on, and you have the hamburger gate thing. Now, my 2 main things that I wanted to come on here for, I am sorry because I don't remember where I saw it and I didn't fully read it, but I hear that if Jim wants to take the Pete Carroll route and bounce for the NFL, bouncing for the NFL will not save him to escape unscathed. It sounds like in that article, and I'm sorry for referencing this again because I didn't fully read it and I don't remember where I saw it, but it sounds like from that article that even if he bounced, he would face some kind of punishment from it.
From where?
I don't know. I
Who's
guess
going to
from the
punish him?
I mean, you think about it like this, because with the tattoo gate, the players that bounced for, or not bounced, but the players that left to be drafted and went on to the NFL,
Which was one.
were still punished.
They were punished how? Terrell Pryor entered the supplemental draft. He wasn't punished. He entered the supplemental draft and went into the NFL. The players that stayed missed 5 or 6 games, and then they played the rest of their season. And then most of them went into the NFL. I think it's basically Ohio State's 4 best offensive players. So they all had an NFL career. Now, Jim Tressel suffered because he never coached again and lost one of the best jobs in the country. But he wasn't, as far as, if he would have wanted to move on to the NFL, which he did as an analyst with the Indianapolis Colts, he did. Like, the NCAA has no jurisdiction past college athletics.
Yeah, like I said, I forget where it was, and I didn't read too much of it because I just didn't have time at the time that I found it. But that's what I saw. How true it is, I don't know. I would assume, based on what you're saying, probably not very true.
I'm not seeing where any coach has ever suffered in any way unless they wanted to get another job collegiately, but they can move on to some other industry. They can be a TV analyst. They can be a head coach or a coach of any sort in the NFL or in the XFL or whatever.
Mm-hmm. So my last question before I go here, I just wanted to ask you, what do you think the punishment is that fits the crime if all of this is true?
Oh, boy. Okay. Well, I've said this a few times, and I expect I'm a contrarian and I'm in the minority, but if there are recruiting violations in other cases, how are those dealt with? Well, it's a recruiting violation. Therefore, you take away scholarships because that's related to recruiting and illegal, against the rules, I should say, recruiting, paying players, fixing their grades to keep them eligible, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. That ultimately has an impact on wins and losses, but it's not directly related. Therefore, that seems to be pretty appropriate. Now, in this case, there is only one reason you cheat, and that is to change the outcome of the competition. That is the only reason. There is no other reason to cheat. None. Therefore, the outcomes of the games should be changed. And again, I don't like that because it has a minimal effect. Changing the results of games from the past, it's kind of dumb because we all watch the game and we never will know what would have happened. So, but that's what you're dealing with. And then a punishment going forward, which would be a postseason ban, would be one in particular.
Do you think that we see something along the lines of like a Joe Pa type of thing where wins are taken away?
Oh, it could be. Sure. That's what I just suggested, even though I'm not crazy about it.
Pay attention.
Yes.
Yeah.
The reason you cheat is to change the outcome of a game. That's the only reason anybody ever cheats at a competition.
And, it's kind of annoying too, because it's like this whole, Michigan stomped a mud hole in Ohio State the last 2 years. You really think not cheating would have changed that? I'm kind of like, one, I don't really care because that's what the outcome was. Now,
Yeah,
if
I
it
have
had
no
a
idea.
drastic effect on it, then I would probably be on the side of, well, maybe. But like I said, that's what the result was. I don't really care. It's like
Exactly. I
throwing that
don't
in
care
your
either.
face.
I think
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
completely inconsequential.
yeah. That's kind of where I stand because it's
If
like, well,
if we could somehow know, if God would come down, he's got better things to do, but if God would come down and say, if Michigan would not have cheated, the score of last year's Ohio State Michigan game would have been 45-23, which of course was the score of the game. That
mhm.
wouldn't change my opinion of the cheating whatsoever. It'd be like, okay, well then these idiots still cheated. How that would actually underline how moronic it was to cheat because it didn't affect anything. That is another portion of this that I find somewhat amusing and other times irritating and annoying, that people say, well, it doesn't change anything. They would have had to say, then they're complete idiots for cheating. You cheat to change the outcome of the game. Otherwise, why are you cheating? That's stupid. So if it had no impact, that's even more stupid. That's even more moronic, to cheat if it had no impact. So I'm on the other side of this to a certain extent to say, you know what? They're idiots for cheating if it had no impact. And they've put
Yeah,
their university in this type of situation and their football program in this type of situation for having no impact on these games. None.
mhm,
Brilliant.
for basically nothing. But I mean, because it's one of those, it's like there obviously it had to have been some kind of an impact on both games,
Of course.
even though rightfully so, because y'all did win the game. They tend to claim, well, no, it wouldn't have mattered because the level of play is just that much better. Come on now.
Yes.
I mean,
And don't do it.
like you stated earlier, one, you cheat to change the outcome, and two, Michigan tends most of the time to recruit lower than Ohio State, meaning where they finish, Ohio State tends to be higher up in the recruiting rankings.
No, they don't just tend to be, they are all the time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which doesn't mean they're going to win football games. It just means they have better talent.
Yeah.
But again, that doesn't mean Ohio State's going to win these football games. Michigan may have and probably did, and I hate and hesitate to make a call on it. Probably would have won anyway. I don't know. Again, to me, that almost emphasizes the stupidity and the cheating. Like for anyone who would say it didn't have any impact, to me, that underlines and emphasizes the stupidity in it.
I mean, because the other big thing for me is like, okay, they want to immediately go to, well, Ohio State was involved. Well, how was Ohio State involved? Is my thing with it all.
Well, I think that some people, if I'm reading this correctly, gain some level of satisfaction out of the possibility that Ohio State was, I guess, whining, complaining, crying over losing, and therefore they had to point this out to the NCAA.
I mean, win or lose, you should still point it out. It doesn't matter. If they broke the rules, they broke the rules, and it needs to be taken care of and punishment the way it should be. I mean, it's like okay, to that point, it's like if you and I, for example, went and robbed a bank and we got away with it, if something happened and someone knows about it, someone should call the cops on us because we still did it. So therefore, if we're caught, we should be found guilty.
In a way, this almost seems like, and this may not be a very good analogy, but if I'm in a history class and I get A's all the time, but I'm not the best student in the class, but I get A's anyway. I get 92, 94s, but I got to work for it. I got to study. And the girl that sits in front of me, she gets 100s every time. She's brilliant. She's a genius. And we're taking a test and she gets up to go to the bathroom and I can see her paper and I can see her test. And so I write down all the right answers and then I get caught and I say, I'm already getting A's. I didn't need to cheat. I'm already getting like not quite as good as her, but I'm already getting A's. So I didn't need to cheat. And that was my defense. Well, then you're an idiot for cheating. Why did you cheat?
Yeah, actually, yeah, yours makes more sense. Yeah. But anyway, I'll hop off of here because I'm sure you got a line. But everybody make sure to subscribe to all the channels, join the Discord if you can, and join the Patreon, and make sure we go and like everything, and ring the notification bells on all the channels, because guess what, guys? It builds morale. It makes everybody feel better, as a good buddy of mine likes to say. So see you next time, Mark.
Thank you, Buckeye Mike. Appreciate it. All right. I guess this is going to be our final call here at the Voice of College Football. I want to remind everyone that College Football After Dark comes your way tonight at 10:15 Eastern Time. And if I so choose, I'll come in and make their life a living hell, I guess, as I've done a few times in the past. Ask Ben. So we'll see if I'm up to listening to their review of the weekend and their look ahead and everything that they've got. But it's always a great conversation with, we got Jordan Bowman, we got Tim Prangley, we got Ben, we've got, who else jumps in on that thing? Whoever else is there, Michigan Man. And yeah. And then when I hear something ridiculous on there that I have to respond to, then you see me in the chat. And then Ben gets annoyed. And yes. All right. Exploring with Ben says, join Mark on Patreon. Just $5 a month gets you extra perks. Mark's picks, access to the Discord, the chat, college football, a bunch of us knuckleheads. Yes, 24/7, 365. And also as a member right here on the main channel. So you can become a member right here as Shadyville did earlier. We appreciate that. All right. My top 25 that actually makes sense just uploaded. So check that out and let me know where I missed it. And then also, yeah, I got a lot of good ideas for this week in addition to what we typically do. I think we need to delve into what's happened to Clemson. So I may do that with my buddy Jason Priester. And yeah. Tuesday night. Guess what's going on Tuesday night? It's the first unveiling of the college football playoff rankings. Therefore, Tuesday night, we will have a watch party. So let me make a banner here so everyone can see, because you're not listening to me. College football playoff rankings watch party Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern time. So what we will do, and of course, I ran out of folder space, so we need to delete that. Bam, there we go. Add the banner. There you go. Tuesday night, 7 o'clock Eastern time, college football playoff rankings watch party. Okay. So we've done this the last 3 or 4 years. So once the playoff rankings are revealed every Tuesday, you can count on us being here every Tuesday when the show starts. We'll be here a couple minutes before the show starts and we will watch together. Then bam, we will take your calls and we will talk about, should Ohio State be number one? Should Michigan be number one? Florida State should be number one. How about Georgia? They're the defending champs. They should be number one. Washington's got the best offense. They should be number one. Whatever. And we will take it from there. So again, Tuesday at 7 Eastern time, we've got a packed Tuesday night. We do the Iowa show at 5:30 Eastern. We do this watch party at 7 o'clock Eastern time. We've got our buddy Clint Foster, who does the Biggest 12 show. that's right here at 7 o'clock Eastern time. So yes, we can run multiple live streams on the same channel. So Clint, sorry to sabotage your show on Tuesday night, but we're doing our college football playoff watch party. Then at 7:30, you got the Texas Tuesday show right here. I believe on the main channel. It's on the Big 12 channel. That's another thing we wish you would and would like for you to lock in on. Then at 8 o'clock Eastern time, you've got John D'Adamo and the Michigan channel and the Michigan live show, 8 o'clock Eastern time on Tuesday. And then at 10 Eastern, you got the Oregon live show. All right, folks. Appreciate you all being here at the Voice of College Football. Oh, we had one more call. Let's get to it. Keith is on the line. Keith, how you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm doing good, Mark. How you doing?
I am doing just fine.
All right.
I appreciate your patience.
Yeah. Yeah. I put on there honest UMM fan because right from the start, when I heard the story, I heard that I didn't know his name at the time, but Connor Stallion started deleting social media accounts and posts and stuff off his computer. So those that act guilty are guilty.
Yes, I'm pretty confident based on everything that we've seen that he's guilty. It's a question as to whether Michigan's guilty.
Yes. And that's it. And the WAPO story that listed quite a bit of activity on Michigan, it looks like it was systematic and higher ups did know. I don't think anybody can say Harbaugh knew or this person knew or that person knew, but I'm certainly open to the possibility, but condemning them before they're convicted, I think, is foolish move.
Yes, we
Yeah.
don't do that. We
Yeah.
should not do that in this country. Absolutely not.
Yes. Another point I've been making on the stream, and I even got a love from one of you guys there, that yes, Michigan cheated, but let's rank the scandals where they lie. Like Tatgate, I thought was one of the dumbest scandals in history. A few guys get some tattoos. And is it true that Ohio State had to vacate 10 wins because of that?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the dumbest thing. And though I didn't cry for Urban Meyer leaving Ohio State, I thought Ohio State was really foolish not to fight to keep Urban Meyer there because to me, it was a big nothing burger. You guys should have been able to keep Urban.
Well, you're talking about Tattoo Gate in 2010, correct?
Correct.
That was Jim Tressel.
Oh, that was Tressel. Okay.
Yeah, that's what caused Urban Meyer to be hired.
Oh,
Tressel
okay.
left, was fired, gone. And this is horrible of me. I can't even remember if Jim Tressel was fired or if he left on his own. I'll have to look that up right now. But yeah, Jim Tressel left. Then they had an interim coach, Luke Fickell, for 2011. Then Urban Meyer was hired.
Yeah. But I also think, Mark, I think the media is hostile to Michigan. We've heard there's an old story that a referee deliberately called a call against Bo Schembechler, so you go out a loser. I don't know if you remember that story, and I see some of this media stuff out there. I served in the military, so are you familiar with the term? Are you familiar with the term double dipper?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so Connor Stallion sounds like, although I don't have knowledge of it, when they say retired military, that makes him a double dipper. So that means he gets 70% of his highest pay that he ever achieved for the rest of his life after he retires.
I'm listening.
Okay. So you add that to his 55, he's probably a six-figure character at this point. But I can't say that for sure, but it sounds to me like he is. If he's retired as an 04, a captain would be an 04 in the military with 20 years of experience. All that factors into his pay. I wouldn't be surprised if he's getting another 45 to 55K from the military on top of the 55K salary.
Okay. Yeah, this is not an Number one, I mentioned from the start, as other people did, that we never know what people's finances are just based on their job income. They could have inheritance. They could be a guru in the stock market. They could have all sorts of side hustles and businesses going on, all sorts of things. So I never made a judgment about, well, he only makes $55,000. He could not be running this type of operation. Now, since we have found out that it really didn't cost that much money to purchase these tickets and travel.
Right. Also, the thing in travel is when I was in the reserves, I could travel inside of CONUS, which is continental U.S.
Yes.
On something called Space Available. And it's a free flight. If you get in uniform, in your travel uniform, your Class A uniform, you can jump on these planes. And I've flown a half dozen times down to Tampa to drive my grandfather back from his Florida hiatus for the winter. I flew out to Washington State for nothing to bring my brother back when he was getting out of the Air Force from Montana, and we drove back together. So Connor Stallions, as a retired military, has access to these flights and also to what's called the BEQ and the BOQ, Bachelor Enlisted Quarters and Bachelor Officer Quarters. So he can stay at these places, and I did this when I got off of active duty for the Gulf War, the first Gulf War that only went for like 10 days, but they kept us on active duty for 9 months. I flew over to Germany and back for $26, and I stayed in BEQs and BOQs. The whole trip probably cost me a couple $100 for a 10-day trip out to Europe to visit my brother when he was out there. And so all this was available, would seem to me to be available to Connor Stallions that could make a lot of this travel much less expensive than it is to a non-retired military.
Yeah, so the point I was going to make is the same one that Uncle Rico is making there in the chat, that even though he benefits from being in the military, he was not the one going to these games. So I don't know how that would work, because even if he was purchasing, any flights would have to be in the name of the person going, not him.
It could have been done like this. As an OSU alum, there's OSU chapters in every major city in the United States. And if I was Connor Stallions, I would just jump on a Space A flight in the off season, go out to the Tulsa, a base near Tulsa, stay in a BEQ there, and I would go to the U of M alum clubs, strike up friendships, and say, hey, could you do me a favor next year? I'll get you a ticket. Go film something for me.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
It sounds like if you figured out the way for him to work around that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. So if he's retired military, this is all accessible to him. I could have done that while I was still in the reserves. I could have done that thing. I didn't retire. I got out after 13 years. But the other hostile thing is, did you hear about the, I don't want to mention the other YouTube name. I don't know if it's a direct competition with you.
It makes no difference. You can name anyone you want.
Okay, so Isaiah Hole, who I believe is affiliated with USA Today.
Yeah, Isaiah is a good guy.
Yes.
We've hit him on many times.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he reported that U of M, when they met with the NCAA, that there was a Sunday afternoon or evening conference call among several Big Ten coaches, including Ryan Day and Jim Harbaugh. Coaches and staff were both included. Did you hear anything about that?
No, not specifically. I did not.
Okay. So Isaiah reported that they met in these meetings, and what was exchanged was strategy and signs. So apparently, signs are being traded among multiple, including Ohio State and Michigan.
Okay.
In these conference calls.
Yep. Yeah. So I know exactly what you're talking about now. I didn't quite get what you were talking about them having a meeting. Yes, I have seen a few sources that said that that there are various coaches and programs on different levels that are involved in exchanging signs, which somebody would have to explain to me how in the world that would benefit anyone if you're all ripping off signs from each other.
I think it would be the case where PJ Fleck would, if he just played Michigan, would in that conference call say to Ryan Day, "These are the signs I got from Michigan. These I can tell you, the left arm wave is this, and the
Yep.
right leg swing is that."
Yes.
And I think I think that's the way coaches would do that. And I played in junior high school, and I'm used to signs and stealing and changing signs. And I can tell you from personal experience, changing signs is very easy. You can do it in a day, and you can foil the other team like TCU did Michigan in the Fiesta Bowl.
Okay, so PJ Fleck in this scenario is communicating this to Ryan Day, and Jim Harbaugh is listening to it.
Yep, and that's why, you know, Ryan Day is reported that in 2021 they knew that Michigan was stealing signs, so they changed the signs for the 21 game. Right? You heard that?
Yes. So all this seems rather odd to me that this would go on, but I think it's similar to a lot of activities where even if you're against it, if you don't agree with it, that if it's going on with your 13 biggest competitors, meaning the rest of the Big Ten, then you have to throw up your hands and say, well, I need to take part of this because otherwise I'm going to get left out of it. And I'm going to have to take part in this anyway. If other people have initiated this, but based on what I know from what we've read from these various stories that have come out since this story broke, I don't know that that's against NCAA bylaws.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's a possible source where Michigan's getting the signs to laminate these signs and things, which I think laminating a sign is dumb in the first place, because as soon as in the game you know that they got your signs, you're going to change them, and those laminated signs aren't going to be good anymore.
Sure. But again, I don't know. That is great information, and it seems rather odd and strikes me as odd, and it's great information to have if that in fact is going on. However, that in my view doesn't change if Michigan is still going through these other routes to have people show up at games to tape the signs.
That seems dumb to me, and doing it all in your own name, that all seems dumb to me too.
Absolutely, it does.
And I don't think Michigan is above doing dumb things than anybody else is, and so yeah, but I just can't get past the fact that any Ohio State fan says that we lost because of this cheating, when Ryan Day said they changed the signs in 21 because they knew. And then I know that Ryan Day is smart enough to know if he had to change them in 21, he changed them in 22 too. Also, I assume you give Ryan Day that credit, and therefore take away the excuse that Ohio State lost to Michigan because Michigan was cheating.
Yeah, I'm not going to completely take it away. I would in no way ever say that my team lost games because the other team cheated. I don't think any of us can say that one way or the other. And I understand what you're saying about changing the signs. But I've also heard other sources say, including the, they were anonymous coaches and staff members of certain teams that said there was no way for us to change everything.
Yeah, and like I say, I played in junior high school, the signs at the collegiate level and the pro level might be 100 times more complicated in junior high school. And
Yes,
like you say, maybe it's a bigger deal up there.
I would think so. All right, Keith, we appreciate you calling.
All right. Always enjoyed your show. I've been watching for you about 2 years. This is
Nice.
the first time I've called.
Yes, call back anytime. It's great to hear from you.
All right. It's great talking to you, Mark.
All right. We got another call coming in from Biggs Mikes.
Hey, Mark, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. What's going on?
Not much. I was going to piggyback off what that I think Buckeye Mike is his name was saying about Harbaugh. If he goes to the NFL, he would still get in trouble. I think what they were referring to in that article, which I don't know is true, is when Tressel, he did go to the pros as a coordinator, but he was like he couldn't actually like start that position that season for 6 games. They like suspended him for 6 games during that season for what happened in Ohio State.
They applied the same suspension.
Yeah, they applied the same. What would happen to in college? They moved it to the NFL. Basically, is what happened. So if Harbaugh was to get suspended for a season, he would be useless for the NFL for a year.
So, yeah. So I'm taking it that, and that's coming back to me now, that the NFL is doing that because they want to maintain a good relationship with college football, but they don't have to do that. They can do whatever they want, but
they don't. And I have a feeling it's going to go one of two ways. If this guy did it, if Harbaugh wasn't involved, it's going to be, I'm assuming scholarships are going to be taken away. And then if Harbaugh is involved, it's going to be wins taken away and then a postseason ban. I'm assuming that will happen. I mean, it's just guessing. But
well, it's a pretty educated guess. It's that sounds reasonable. Yeah, as the dividing line between institutional lack of control and knowledge of, and not just maybe knowledge, but yes, funding it and initiating it. Yep.
I'm probably just being naive too, as a Michigan fan for 35 years now, whatever it may be, is that I have a feeling Harbaugh did not know what was going on, but that's just my guess. But like you're saying, if all these coaches know in college that Michigan is still in signs since 2021, it's just odd that it would not find its way to Harbaugh that's going on, right? So it's just kind of, I just don't know what to believe. I'm trying to stay off the internet because like a lot of people are saying it's just a new article every 5 minutes from some random source that knows something about something, and it just never ends right now. It's just I just don't have a feeling it's going to be resolved this year, as you said. I don't think it will happen until next year, probably, with the NCAA, because they haven't even got the paperwork for the burger issue yet, and that was what in January.
Yeah,
whenever that was. So they haven't even done that yet, and it just sucks for the players. I hate it because being a Michigan fan this long, I've dreamed of seasons like a team like this to be together, and the last team I remember like this really was probably 2006. And I don't know how that turned out, but teams like this don't come around that often. It's just going to be sad if the players do, if the Big Ten does step in and bans them from playing in the Big Ten championship and then maybe even the college playoffs, which I don't think they will do because I think they're going to let it work itself out. Because if you ban them and then it comes out that it wasn't to the extent, then that looks bad. But I don't know your thoughts on that. If the Big Ten would actually step in and say you can't play in the Big Ten championship, not even not knowing all the facts yet.
Yes, they're not going to do that. I would be shocked if the Big Ten stepped in unless they were ironclad sure exactly what, and maybe just by some stipulation or bureaucracy that they could just get the jump on the NCAA and kind of try to clean up this season. But I don't see that happening.
It could work out where Michigan goes to the playoffs. J.J. McCarthy wins the Heisman. They win the national title. And in 2024, it all comes out. This is all true. And then it's stripped. Michigan stripped of it. Or it's not to the extent. And they're only given scholarship bans or what it may be. Right. So it's just a toss up. It's just a filter for news right now, especially during the during the middle of the week. It's just like something to talk about. But, I appreciate your content, though. You're the one level-headed Buckeye fan I know. So I appreciate it.
For one thing, Well, thank you for that. I do my best. I'm still a fan. I still
You
have
do poke
rooting
fun at.
interest.
I've been listening to you for a long time. I've only called in a few times. You do poke fun at us, but it's in a joking manner, right? It's not to the extent of the other
Yeah.
Buckeye fans I know. So you
I
do still make
actually,
fun
and
of
this may be difficult for most Ohio State fans to relate to, but I actually hope none of this is true and Michigan gets completely, as long as that's justified and that's the truth.
Yeah.
I would rather have this sport be as clean as possible.
Same here. It's just, it's so. I was messing with one Buckeye fan. though. I was like, I want to know the excuse now. If Michigan beats you this year, it's because we knew your signs. If we lose to you, it's because we didn't know your signs. Which one is it? I want to know. I want to know ahead of the game which excuse we're going to go with. I want to know what happens. But
I don't
it's
know
all gonna.
what excuses were you guys using for 15 years before that.
Hey, don't. Hey, I didn't. Hey, that's not. That's bad. That's bad.
Well, you keep coming with me at those, and I'm going to fire back at some point.
I know. I kind of after the 2001 season, I kind of just fell into a deep sleep, and I don't know exactly what happened those years.
Okay.
So I don't.
Well, I can fill you in sometime. Call me
No,
back.
I'm sure you can. So
We-
I've had
we
some.
can-
As Michigan fans, we had some good teams, and some rough. 2006 was a great team, as you know, number one versus number two. And if it was a format we had now, they would have replayed each other in the playoffs. Is what would have happened, right? But that wasn't the format at the time. It was, Florida got in. It was Florida versus Ohio State, and Ohio State got beat by Florida, I believe, that year.
Well, it might have been Ohio State is the 1 seed, Florida the 2, Michigan the 3, and I'm trying to think maybe USC would have been the 4. That might have been the setup.
And if Michigan in 2016 could have beat Iowa, that probably would have been a rematch again. I don't know. I'm assuming that's what happened too. Michigan would have still made the playoffs, but neither here nor there. But we've had some good teams. But yes, Ohio State. Only thing I don't like about Ohio State fans are football started in the year 2000. Everyone I know, it just starts in the year 2000. The 90s didn't matter.
Do we really want to start this conversation?
I know. I don't ever call in on your show. I just listen a lot. So I'm probably just letting some stuff off my chest. But yes, 20 years of dominance. No arguing that. So you guys are a top 1 or 2 program without a doubt. And but I'm hoping it's like you're saying, none of it's true. It's all comes out, and we can just get back to playing football and let it go. But I have a feeling there's definitely going to be some kind of penalties are coming Michigan's way. It's just to what extent. But we'll probably know in 2024, 2025, maybe 2026. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I just wanted to call and not take too much of your time. I know you've been on for hours now. And but I do appreciate all your work, and I always enjoy listening to your shows. Even if a lot of people are making fun of Michigan, it's still, something good to listen to.
Yeah, I can't control that. So
I know, but no, you have a lot. There are a lot of good. I do know a few good Buckeye fans. So very, very few, but you're one of them. So I appreciate everything, Mark. And I'll be waiting for your next video to come out. I'm sure Tuesday, right? You're going to do a live stream Tuesday.
That will be our next show. Well, we've got college football after dark tonight at 10 o'clock Eastern. I'm not part of that, but the next time I'm here live is going to be for the Big Ten show at 6 o'clock on Monday.
Oh, I did see on ESPN they did their I forget his name. He was an Ohio State football player back in the day. He does ESPN college, the evening show, the after show, and Michigan number 6. So
are we talking about Herb Street?
No, the guy. It's the college football.
Joey Galloway.
Joey Galloway. Yeah, he had a Michigan 6. So thought that was interesting, but I guess we haven't played anybody yet, so it'll all work itself out. But I think it's gonna be Ohio State 1, Georgia 2, Florida State 3, Michigan 4, probably. That's how I see it going.
Yeah,
I don't know, but I know you have Ohio State 1 for sure.
Well, I do. That's just a resume ranking. Again, I don't believe they've looked like the best team, but they have the best resume.
Do you think it's odd that Penn State struggled so hard against Indiana at home?
It is. I can't say that I'm totally surprised, but yeah, I don't think that's good. I usually am a little bit more measured, like, okay, let's not jump to conclusions, but Penn State really hasn't, they've only played against Ohio State, and otherwise they've handled everyone, and now they turn around and they play that game against Indiana. Yeah, it was not a good look. They
And
had the same issues against Indiana that they've had against and did the week before against Ohio State.
it's kind of been their season really on offense, to be honest.
Yeah.
Right. I'm surprised they gave up that many points, which was the interesting part. Right. But yeah, and then like Notre Dame lost to Louisville, and then Louisville lose to Pitt. It's just so funny how college football works. You just never know what's going to happen week to week. But yeah, you guys will be number one. But it's like you said many times, it's all going to work itself out over the next 4 weeks. And
Well,
I'm looking
wait a
forward to
minute.
it.
I know what you mean by saying that, Biggs, but I am not the person that says it works itself out. That will work itself out, that division, but the whole playoff thing, I hate when people say it'll just work
Yeah.
itself out.
Well, it could be like last year if Michigan beats Ohio State again, and then Washington lose. You know, there's so many scenarios. Ohio State could get in again like they did last year when USC lost.
Sure they
So
could.
even if Ohio State loses to Michigan, they're not out of it. I think if Michigan loses to Ohio State, they're probably out of it. But you know, it's yeah, you're true with the play. You never know how the playoffs are going to go. That was a bad statement on my part.
Well, I'm just saying a lot of people say that. I actually jumped on somebody on Twitter for saying that yesterday, a national pundit.
Yeah.
I forget who it was, but you know, it'll just work itself out. No, it won't.
No,
Sometimes it
won't.
does. Yeah. There are seasons where I can clearly say it's difficult to argue any team outside of the top 4 should have been in the top 4. But there are other seasons I can clearly give an argument for other teams. So it didn't work itself out.
Well, if whatever happens, let's just hope Michigan and Ohio State are somehow both in it, and then we can play in the playoffs. Because that would be awesome to see.
Yeah, that would be something.
Well, Mark, I'll let you go. I know it's been on the air for a while, but appreciate you taking my call, and I look forward to your next video that comes out. So
Thanks
you
for
have a
calling,
good evening,
man.
sir.
We appreciate it.
Bye.
All right. You know, I was looking for this since we were talking Ohio State and Michigan, and I should save this somewhere so I have it handy because I did enjoy posting this, but man, it's been a couple months ago, so it's difficult to find. And I'm shoot. Oh yeah, here we go. There it is. I know Michigan fans enjoy this. Michigan fans should enjoy this post since Michigan is the winner of 2 of these 3 categories. So they should not take offense to this. Michigan fans, you should not take offense to this in any way. This is basically me just summarizing the rivalry. That if you are 100 years of age and older, then Michigan has bragging rights. If you are age 3 or younger, then Michigan, you have bragging rights. If you just so happen to be, and I know this is a small percentage of the American population, but if you just so happen to be between the ages of 3 and 100, then Ohio State has bragging rights. And then, of course, a bunch of people shot back with their responses, and Michigan fans who were citing just simply the rivalry and the record in the games. That's not what I'm going for here. I'm talking about in totality. In totality, talking about winning percentage, major bowl wins, AP finishes in the top 10, the top 5, national championships, Big Ten championships, talking about all those things. That's just the way it is. Those are just facts. Those are just facts. And so, Michigan, you have won 2 of 3 categories. So, yes, Ralph is segmenting a small portion of history here. So anytime somebody does this, let's see, where are we? There you go, B-Bean. There we go. Steven is saying between 1977 and 2002, Michigan was 25-7 against Ohio State. Okay, well, let me think about that. That's probably true or close to being true because Ohio State just won in so Ohio State won in 79 and in 81, 82, 84, 87, and then did not win until 94, 98, 01. So there's 8 right there. So you're off by 1. But anyway, I get your point. So yeah, you can take a fraction of any slice in the series, but 77, that's 20. Let's see. You've got horrible math. Wait a minute. Whoa, 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 whoa. 1977 to the year 2000 is 23 years. Add on 2 years, that's only 25 games. How can Michigan be 25-7 in the span of 25 years? This is ultimately why I think many of you watch this show, is because nobody can BS me on here. I can either look it up or much of it's between my ears. That's wrong. I can tell you the score of every game, Ohio State and Michigan, from 1977 to 2002. I once saw Trey Wingo produce a video, and I like Trey Wingo. I have no idea what happened to him, but anyway, this was years ago, in which he recited the score of every Super Bowl. And this was like a big deal. And they showed it on ESPN, and I thought, big deal. I can recite the score of every Super Bowl as well, and where it was played, and who was the MVP, and a bunch of stats from each game. So that's okay. That's only 25 games. So apparently it was actually 77 through 02. That's 26 games. There was 1 tie. So take that out. There's 25 games. And if I just counted 8 Ohio State wins, then we're talking about 16 Michigan wins. Yes, Mike, I know when the tie was. 1977, Michigan 14-3. 1977, Michigan 14-6. 1978, Michigan 14-3. 1979, Ohio State 18-15. 1980, Michigan 9-3. 81, Ohio State 14-9. 82, Ohio State 24-14. 83, Michigan 24-21. 84, Ohio State 21-6. 85, Michigan 27-17. 86, Michigan 26-24. 87, Ohio State 23-20. 88, Michigan 34-31. 89, Michigan 28-18. 90, Michigan 16-13. 91, Michigan 31-3. 92, 13-13 tie. 93, Michigan 28-zip. 94, Ohio State. What was the final score of that game? Wait a minute. 94. Oh, shoot. 94, Ohio State won. I'm not coming up with the score. 22-6. There we go. 22-6. I knew it was an odd score. 95, Michigan 31-23. 96, Michigan 13-9. 97, Michigan 20-14. 98, Ohio State 31-16. 99, Michigan 24-17. 2000, Michigan 38-26. 01, Ohio State 26-20. 02, Ohio State 14-9. And you know what? Just because it's my show and I can, and because I've already started, might as well recite the rest of them. 03, Michigan 35-21. 04, Ohio State 37-21. 05, Ohio State 25-21. 06, Ohio State 42-39. 07, Ohio State 14-3. 08, Ohio State 42-7. 09, Ohio State 21-10. 2010, Ohio State 37-7. 11, Michigan 40-34. 12, Ohio State 26-21. 13, Ohio State 42-41. 14, Ohio State 42-28. 15, Ohio State 42-13. 16, Ohio State That was the overtime game. So they scored a touchdown. I'm forgetting the score was like 30-23, correct? No, but they only scored to win by 6. It was they went to overtime tied at 17. 30-24. I'm forgetting the 16 game score. They went to overtime. It was 17 all. So it must have been 26-20. 30-27. That's what it was. That's right. Michigan kicked a field goal to make it 27-24. Bam. Yeah. They go to overtime 17 all. They both score a touchdown 24 all. Michigan kicks a field goal 27-24. Bam. Curtis Samuel touchdown 30-27. Okay. 2017 was 31-20. 2018 was 62-39. 2019, Ohio State 56-27. 2020, somebody canceled the game. Don't know what happened there. 21 was Michigan 42-27. Last year, Michigan 45-23. There we go. There's all your scores since 1977. And I could go back into the mid 60s, and then I would start losing it. All right. There we go. I'm sure all of you, I used to get tested on this stuff all the time. When I first went to ESPN, they used to take sticky notes and they'd pull up baseball stats on computer screens, like guys' career statistics, and then they would cover up on a sticky note different things. So it wasn't obvious. And then they would time me on at what point I could guess. All right. So, yes, Michigan won the first, 12? I think they won the first 12. All right. We could just do an Ohio State Michigan show every week, just to argue about this kind of stuff. All right. Appreciate you all being here at the Voice of College Football. The Big Ten live show is Monday at 6. Would love to see all of you here. We will talk about whatever you want to talk about concerning Big Ten football. And we typically bring in some good guests as well. The Big Ten live show Mondays at 6 Eastern. And then tonight, join the Knuckleheads. They host tonight. It's not me, so you don't have to put up with me. Talk college football with them tonight at 10:15 Eastern. And then the college football playoff watch party. The rankings reveal, the first one, Tuesday at 7 o'clock Eastern time. So we'll watch together. Then I'll take your calls and we'll talk it up. All right, folks, appreciate you being here. And we will see you tonight at 10 or Monday at 6 Eastern. Is Urban Meyer going to Michigan State? I would say no. I don't see that happening in any such way. I think unless Urban Meyer really wants to come back to coaching and doesn't believe that there is another opportunity for him, I think otherwise Urban Meyer wants to assess the school's ability to win a national championship. And yes, maybe tonight, Uncle Rico, unless they promise to be good and not say stupid things that don't make sense, that I may have to monitor and then start yelling at them. Yes. I found that necessary last week. All right, folks, appreciate you being here. You guys know that. Thank you, each one of you, and have a great night, and we will see you soon.